Hello, Joe Goldsmith, man. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of AuroraCast. Finally got you on the podcast, man. After how long have we been talking about this?
This podcast, at least a year. Just trying. Schedules have been absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, just crazy times, man. It's so good. Thank you for giving me your time today, man. I know you are a very, very busy man. Just for some context for the guys, we're going all the way to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. I'm in London. The powers of the internet. We're talking. Man. Honestly, I'm really excited, man. I'm thinking about this. You're my second international guest.
Yeah,
my other buddy Grant. Yeah. He came in from Michigan. I think he was like episode 5 or 6. Okay. So yeah, we're AuroraCast, man. We're branching out.
I'm just surprised I'm only your second. I thought you had more.
With how
long you've been rolling on with this. So because man, for those of you watching, man, and I'm sure you all know, but Mike knows everybody. Mike knows everybody. Anything he says, just nod your head and say yes.
I appreciate that, man. I'm sure that's not 100% true all the time. I'll tell you that.
But we'll say 90%. We'll say 90%.
90%, yeah, 90%. Well, man, dude, I'm trying to think. We must have been. We got into this a little bit before we jumped on, but I reckon we've been sort of chatting online for what, 7? I reckon it's 7 years, man.
7 years. I think that's a good number to say.
It's got to be 7. It's got to be 7. So, I mean, man, I'm looking. I brought up your just seeing you grow, man, over those 7 years as well. I think it was YouTube, if I'm right. I think I've done something on YouTube, and that's when we first kind of connected.
Yeah. Back in your what I'm assuming is your first studio.
Yeah, man. My parents
got all the LED lights and stuff everywhere, and I remember I probably keyword searched something, and this guy pops up, with long hair, and I was like, all right, I'll give him a shot, and so I started watching a couple of your videos, and I probably asked a question or something on there. There was some probably connection there, and then I found you on different social media platforms, whatever was around then, and I know it's just kind of been organic ever since. And now, it's a little bit of Instagram, with you, but predominantly your Discord channel.
Yeah, that's grown quite. I mean, and that was, in a way, that was kind of a weird. That I kind of set that up during the kind of the back end of COVID, because social media was just, I wanted to talk about music, and right. plugins and creation, and it, like you say, it's just. I thought, let's just get Discord, let's get a community on there. You know what I mean? When there's no bots in there, there's no problems. And I must admit, I'd like it to be a bit louder than it is in there, but I think it's working well, man. Generally speaking, it might take a couple of days for people to come back, but people do come back eventually,
Right, absolutely, and that just it makes me. I personally like that, because the community, the channels aren't flooded, with comments and opinions and bots and this and that, where things all get muddied up, and you can post a question, and with the understanding that you're not going to get an immediate response usually, because sometimes some people fire away on it, but given a day or so to get that response, it's genuine conversation, and the content is genuine as well. It's not like, oh, buy this or try, just try that, and people give a snarky comment. That doesn't exist on your channel. And the best part is none of it really has to be vetted. You look at a lot of these Facebook pages and stuff, and report to page moderator or something. We don't have to do that, right, because that junk doesn't exist. And that's why I like, being a part of your Discord channel. And for those of y'all, watching, get on there if you're not already. And it's again, Mike, if you want to put your little plug in there for your
I'll
channel.
Throw it down there, man. Yeah, I'll throw a link at the bottom of the video, 100%, man. It's called the Inner Circle there on Discord. And I think you're right. We kind of, creative moderators, you're one of them, but there's never been a time where anyone's had to really do anything in that capacity at all.
No,
and may that continue. So, man, I got on here. You are a busy guy, you know, a full-time dad, a husband, a composer, a location sound recordist, post-production audio engineer, a soldier, and a Grammy-nominated educator. And it goes on. You know, the audio director. You know, like it's kind of.
I have a program manager or production manager. Like I might, you know, there's a couple of irons in the fire right now, and I'm going, oh, what else? What else is going to happen to me?
It's we got into that a little bit before we started, man. I mean, and I think we should get into it because it's kind of anyone trying to work in this field, anyone working as like an audio entrepreneur, basically, you know, a production entrepreneur, they're gonna have to run their schedule. So, man, talk to me, man. What's happening this week?
So here is what is on my current plate. You know, it's. And it's good and bad, you know, and especially if for those out there that are maybe just getting into this, you know, you're gonna get beat up, you know, you're gonna get rejections, you know, a lot of them, and most of them, it's nothing that you can control, and I think that's what hurts a lot of people, you know, when they first get in, is they think it was something that they did. You know, they're like, oh, I'm not good enough. No, that most likely was not the case. It was probably just some crazy extenuating circumstance that kept you from it. So like, you know, there were a couple productions that I was supposed to be on. Okay. And everything was moving forward, 100% everything. There was a movie coming to Charleston. And so I got the calls, and you know, that's like, where I had to go was like 2.5 hours away. So I'm not waking up in the morning, driving there, doing the job and coming home for 16 days. Like that's not a thing. But a lot of the talent pool in this region, which for audio designers is really, or for location sound guys is really small. And a lot of them are already booked. So it was one of those, look, we're going to put you up in a hotel room. Literally everything was moving forward. And yesterday, I call to check in and say, hey, you know, how we looking? You know, I have a quote for, because the sound kit that I use is, it's a MixPre 6.2 sound devices. So I only have 4 XLR inputs. I can take up to 6, but then we're getting into adapters and different other things. I'm a traditionalist. I want XLR. So I was just checking in with them and saying like, look, we have less than a week before this production goes up. You know, if I've got to get this stuff from Gotham Sound, you know, I need to get this thing on the books now. And so in our conversation, they said, hey man, you know, we found a guy who is there, and that's going to save us a couple grand in hotels and stuff. And I went, well, that sucks. I get it. You got to compartmentalize from a business perspective. I 100% get it. And I don't fault them for that. Sure. I'm not angry at them for that. Am I disappointed? Oh yeah. Am I upset? I mean, yeah, because that's money that I'm not going to get for that job. But strictly from a business perspective, I don't blame them. If I was them and I found somebody in town that I could save myself a couple $1,000s, yeah, I'm going to have to go with them too, you know, especially if a contract wasn't signed or anything like that, you know, and I just had another situation that was supposed to start up like late September, early October. And this specific job lasts for a few months at a time. It's kind of in that like 2 months. Sometimes we go into 3. It just depends on all the details within the production. And so I sent that email out because that Charleston job may have impacted that one, right?
No, scheduling, yeah, of course.
Exactly, 100%. And two completely different types. You know, the Charleston was all production, you know, on set, holding the boom, you know, attenuating knobs, etc., and then just handing over deliverables. Done. Whereas this other one is all production management and post audio. So creating music beds, cleaning up audio, you know, because for this specific client, that all of that content would have been shipped into us, you know what I mean? And we handle all their posts. So I just needed to make sure that I was available. Well, I sent out an email at like 10:30 at night, you know, because I was awake for some reason. I go to bed early. But I had a lot on my mind. So I said, yeah, let me just send this email. And with it, like 20 minutes later, my phone vibrates, and I got a response. Okay. And it just said, hey man, I wouldn't hold for that client. And they got into a little bit of detail. And again, it was between, you know, all the stuff that was happening with the client and with that contractor, that they're the ones that feed me all of that work. Sure. Right. Well, there was some situations that happened and the contractor was like, I'm not dealing with this. So they left. I don't blame. Again, it's another one of those, like, I don't blame them.
Yeah, but you're still left kind of picking up those pieces. And I think that's the thing, man, that's been so kind of interesting with because, you know, obviously when we first started talking, it was very much, you know, music, you know, sample libraries, you know, which, you know, Reaper, Pro Tools, whatever else. And then, like I say, you mentioned that kind of project manager when you get into running your own company, so to speak, because I've had it where you start working on one thing and suddenly someone says, do you know anyone who can help me with some visual effects? And you're like, yeah, I do. Do you know exactly with this? And suddenly you end up sort of like, well, hang about, I'm supposed to be a composer and or mixing this project. Right. And you've got to learn all these kind of things. And then it's kind of, that's kind of suddenly your job just becomes so big, kind of, so to speak, you know. And I mean, it's kind of how I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, how do you think you manage that? What advice would you give? Just kind of resilience with it, just kind of like you say, break it down.
Exactly. You got to pay attention. You know, you have to know what's going on at all times, right? And that whole process became very organic for me. So, you know, I knew some video guys here. When I say video, I'm not talking, and this is not in any way, shape, or form any disrespect to the people that I'm about to reference. Sure. I'm only stating it to showcase you know, the difference here. These weren't DSLR guys, right? These are guys that are operating like FS7s and, you know, cinematic cameras. I mean, one of the guys that I work, I mean, he has a Red. You know, I mean, it's older, but he has one. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, these are guys that will drop $7,000-8,000 just on their glass, like not even the body, but just on the lens, right? So. And basically what had happened is they didn't want to really, not all of them, but some of them, they just didn't really want to mess with getting the clients. You know what I mean? And that's something that, because of my various backgrounds, you know, as a teacher, you know, I was a worship leader, you know, for a number of years, you know, and a stage performer, like I understand how to connect with people, and whether they're adults, children, etc. And like I was in the Chamber of Commerce and all that jazz. So like I was already establishing those networks, and they saw me as a way for them to take something off of their plate. And I saw that as an opportunity to not only increase my value, but to increase theirs as well, because, you know, and this has happened where, you know, they would have a client come in and they just didn't want to deal with them, but it was good money. So they called me and they said, hey, can you handle the back end stuff on this? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Cha-ching. That's money. Yeah. You know,
it's also a skill. I've said this many times in this podcast, but there's that kind of, I call it balancing the ego faders. You know, if you've got a bunch of guys who are sort of like, they're all, and creative people can be a bit like that, right? They can be a bit sort of like, you know, non-fitting in, so to speak, and just focusing on their craft. So if you've built up that through teaching and through kind of especially working with the kids and teaching choral music as well, especially where everyone really has to coexist as an ensemble, right? And in that space, you know, it's like you just applied all those skills that you honed into this role. You know, I mean, another example of this, I had a photo shoot with a lovely photographer on Monday called Joe Thorpe, who came and we did a bunch of shots, you know, and I was kind of saying, surely part of your job is almost like a music producer, right? It's like, even though I knew her very well, I was in the morning, I'm still like, man, what am I wearing? I better hoover my flat. You know, like you're still a little bit, where am I going to be sitting? You know, like you still feel a little bit kind of out of your comfort zone, so to speak. So we were talking about this, about building those people skills, so to speak. That's hitting my mic now. You know, building those kind of that ability to kind of manage what's in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. And regardless of what it is that you do, like you could just be a composer and that's all you do, right? You still have to manage that time. You know, you can't look at a 3-week deadline and expect to get all of the things done right now or later, or, well, I've got this job, you know, next week. And that, no, you can still do all of the things if you manage your time. So, and especially, you know, just focusing on composing for a second, you know, at some point in your career, you know, even if it's just a hobby, because, you know, eventually it's going to become more than just a hobby, right? And people are going to ask things of you that are going to require that. You might need help. You might need to hire an assistant, or maybe just somebody to handle, you know, one component. You know, I mean, even if it's just like the mastering component, or you know, maybe you have a friend that is also a composer, and you know, you're like, hey, I can handle this part, but I really need you to handle this part, and our styles are super similar, so we can do this. You know what I mean? So now you're looking at bookkeeping, you're looking at management, you're looking at, you know, what type of agreement are you going to have to deal with? You know, is it going to become a licensing thing, or are they just going to throw you a bone and you give them some cash? You know, like it's all of those little things. It's you know, the managerial skills, the bookkeeping, the scheduling, you know, and if you are able to do that. So, and in the military, they teach you about span of control, right? So it's always about like your little bubble, your little ring around you. Like, am I good? Can I handle everything that is me and my immediate, like 1 foot surrounding, 3 foot surrounding, right? And then, okay, cool. Now I'll go out to the next one. You know, what things or people are a part of that next element? Can I handle that? Sweet. Okay, I've got that under control, that under control, that under control. I'm good in this ring. Now I can go out to this one. And that's what you got to do. The
whole regimen, you know, yeah.
Exactly. That's what you got to do, you know, because if you inside your space, if your house isn't in order, you can't be expected to handle the next you know, ring and the one after that, because everything will just collapse. And that's the truth, you know, and I don't know if England is this way, but like, and speaking here where I live, like if I want to hire somebody, you know, I have every right to kind of dive into their life a little bit and say like, hey, what's your credit score look like? You know, it's just like a bank taking out a loan. Are you a high risk?
Are you? Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit kind of with that. I don't know. I'm not. I don't really so much care about this sorts of things. But the Brits
I don't care about that type. I'm saying I can.
No, but I mean, the Brits are quite guarded about that sort of stuff. That's for sure. You know, there's always that kind of you know, don't tell anyone else how much you earn.
I got you.
You know, but then it's kind of like, well, that's why so many people in this country don't know how to charge for their services. Because we don't have that conversation. Like we've had, man, me and you have had hour-long chats about budgets before, you know, like breaking them down and what we can do. Do you remember that chat? You know, like,
I do.
Like, I get guys, and especially now with me teaching at the university, I'm very much like, you need to know your worth. You need to know what you're charging people, because there's this thing of, we don't talk about these. It's kind of under the, you know, I don't know, almost rude to ask those questions. It doesn't build the confidence in people to then go and ask that. Ask for that. I think I got one guy in the Discord now, who I need to get back to, asking me about pricing. What do I price at? So I think I think you're 100% right. I think it's kind of like, you know, if you're taking on that responsibility, you know, and again, and I love the fact you brought the military into this, man, because obviously we're gonna be moving on to be talking about that. But I think you've obviously established a grounding from that as well, which I think is very important, you know, out into the world, so to speak. But if you're gonna hire me, you know, and I just go, yeah, that's fine, man, no problem. But you know, my house is gonna be repossessed next week. Or
that's a problem. That becomes my problem.
Exactly, and then that cascades the whole team's knocked out.
Right.
You know, and
I
like,
think, I was just going to say, like, and like, you know, and I'm not saying that, like, you know, all the guys that work for me that I asked them about their credit scores, I don't care. Like, I was just saying that
as an example.
I do know about their life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know the types of people, and I don't pry. It is like we sit down at dinner and I'm like, so tell me about your circle of friends. Like, no, these are people that I have known for a long time, and we have developed a friendship and organic, or this person will vouch for this person. You know, like, it was funny, one of the guys that that I do some work with, there were three of us, and we were at a cafe, and I was meeting these contractors, and we were trying to set up this whole workflow. So I was back there and they were out in the cafe. So we took a quick break, and I came out. I was like, hey guys, you know, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to bring everybody back. And they went, hey, do you see that guy over, you know, buying a coffee? And I kind of turned and I went, yeah. And they went, and I'll never forget it. They went, you need to know him.
Okay.
Okay. And they said, no, seriously, like he's another videographer here in the area. Like you need to, they said, we've known him forever. We work with him a lot. You need to go know him. So I walked over and he's standing there, you know, ordering his coffee. And I kind of, you know, did the whole, like this, you know, up at the counter, and I'm like, hi. And he went, hello, you know, cause he's kind of direct. But I love it. And, you know, it's not like there's a random person standing next to me, staring at me. And I said, so I know Wynn and Eric over there. And he was like, oh, yeah. And I said, they told me that I should come over here and introduce myself. I'm Joe, and I'm in the back having a meeting right now, you know, with these guys. We're trying to get some workflow for some video stuff. If you want to come back and join us in like a few minutes, you know. And I said, you're welcome. And he went, okay, sure. So no joke, like 5 minutes later, we opened the door, and here comes Eric and Wynn and this guy. I didn't even know his name. You know, like they had told me like Travis, but I'm terrible with names. So I didn't even remember his name as he's walking in. And here we are 5 years later, and we work together every single week. You know, and I mean, he's become one of my best friends. I mean, they all are, but you know what I mean? Like it's because those two individuals vouched for him, I knew I could trust that. You know?
Exactly that.
And I didn't have to ask all those questions. Whereas like there've been other people like, you know, we did some work together, and it started to snowball a little bit, but then I would be invited over to their house, you know, or we'd get together for this or that. And then it's like, I start seeing things that those little, we'll call them previews, were in the workflow that I didn't really pay too much attention to. But then once I saw their life, I went, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that's not to be down on them or to say anything nasty about it, but it is the truth. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to build a business, whether you're a composer, a location sound designer, a post editor, a production manager, whatever, you've got to have your workflow, your span of control has got to be in order. And really, you really should only be working with others that have done the same thing, because if not, they're going to give you problems. You're going to have headaches. You're going to have deliverables that aren't there on time, you know, and you're going to get anxiety. You're going to be stressed out, and it's going to, you know, it's going to be 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're going, that deadline is in 7 hours. Like,
and I still don't have this asset. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because you're waiting on that person, because their ship is not in ship shape. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's
and for you as well, because I mean, obviously, if like looking at what you know, what I'm on your site now, man. Just looking through the stuff you do, it's like you've obviously got the composition and the sort of audio and design there. If it's a project that you're going to be doing, that final mix on as well, guess who's the one who's going to be up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? It's going to be you at the end of the day, you know, unless you get a team to kind of help you with that as well. I mean, would you say do you find yourself? This is another question I had for you, which I think is quite relevant, because it kind of happened to me at one point where I suddenly was kind of almost managing bands and sort of out in the studio, sort of helping producers. And I didn't really touch my keyboard for like months. Are you finding that you've at the moment, say, or at times you kind of do move, you need to almost farm out work, which you kind of want to do yourself because it's your craft. But you've got another project lined up that you've got to go and manage.
Yep. So that actually, you just brought up a really good point. The last time I was sitting here, and I don't know, I'd have to pull up YouTube, because whatever the last video that was uploaded onto Atmoverse, which is like an ambient, like kind of chill, if you're sitting in a cubicle and you want to watch, you know, like a video of the ocean and the, you know, the ambient music in the background. I have one of those channels. Whatever that says, that was the last time I was sitting here. So that could have been a month ago. That could have been 2 months ago. You know, I'm not really too sure, because I traveled a little bit this summer. But yeah, I know it's been at least a month since I have sat right here. You know, I got my piano here, you know, and all of this. I've been on my laptop production managing, you know, or out on set, you know, capturing audio. And so all I do is come home, pop out the SD card, plug it in the laptop, upload it to Dropbox, and then shower in bed.
Yep.
You know? So well, yeah, there will be times, where it's like that, where you're not doing the thing that you want to be doing, that you are super passionate about, because you've got to handle all this. But you have to be flexible enough to understand, hey, I want to be a composer. That doesn't mean you're composing every day, all day. You got to do all of the things in order to do the thing. So yeah, I mean, there have been times I've farmed out, you know, and I do have a Rolodex, you know, Mike, you're on that list for me. If
really
I
important,
know,
you need it.
You have to, and it's not you can't have. In order to be successful, you have to have an ego. You have to, because you have to be confident enough in who you are and what you do, in order to look somebody in the eye and say, I can do this. Meanwhile, in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm a fraud. There's you know,
imposter syndrome's a thing, man.
Hardcore, man. Every single time, whether it was the very first job I ever did in this world, to, you know, last week when I submitted a quote, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't do this. Yes, I can. And yes, you can.
Because you've done it. I mean, dude, like you just got to jump on the Persimmon Lane website, which I'll link, by the way, right? You know, man, Netflix. You know, you got Prime Video on here. You know, you've got the Food Network. It just goes on and on. And the Yale, Stanford. Well, I love seeing the educational stuff as well. But this is, I gather, like a culmination of all your entourage, basically. I'm gathering is that, and I think that's an amazing thing.
Exactly. So, and that's what it is. Like with the college jobs, you know, and I'll level with you with those, you know, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into when I said yes for that. You know, it was one of those, I knew somebody, you know, somebody reached out and it was a moment where they were like, I'm in a pickle and I need somebody that can do this. And I went, okay, yeah, like I have my, you know, I have my company and this is what we do. And so I said, yeah. And then we went over and I saw who it was for. And I went, oh, if I'd have known that ahead, I would have been too scared, you know, to take that job. Or not scared. I would have been intimidated, because I always want to do a good job. I want to make sure that it is right 100% of the time, you know, and we'll go to the ends of the earth to make it right if it's humanly possible. Well, sometimes, you know, you literally need that moment of, you know, when, you know, the parent walks over like, today you're going to learn how to swim, and they toss you in the water, you know, and not that happens. I mean, I'm sure it does happen, but that was that moment for me, is just jumping in and just getting her done. And you rise to the challenge, you know, and that doesn't matter whether it's a military thing, a college thing, or, you know, I've just been a composer since I was a teenager and I really like it. And I've learned about it. I've read some books. I've watched some YouTube videos. At some point, just
you got to go and do it.
Yeah. Just go do it, you know?
Well, because you get that. I mean, I think you get that. I mean, I saw something recently that came up. I think it's this David Bowie was saying, you know, like if you're comfortable in doing something, you're not really living. You know, you should try and almost have yourself so that you're just touching the water, right? You're just about kind of keep it together. And he said, I think that the message was, I'm paraphrasing, was, you know, that's when something really great is going to happen.
Yeah, it's
because
true.
You're in between that kind of order and chaos, right? And you're kind of you're forced to have to try things you or approaches, say, to filmmaking or to editing or to composition or to sound design that you perhaps wouldn't have done because you're out of your comfort zone. But then you implement those. That's how you grow, right? Then the next project you go, okay, well, I kind of did something similar to this before, and that sort of worked, but let's tweak it a bit. And then suddenly you're crafting, you know. And I think that's you know. And coming back to the whole kind of because I used to have this real romanticized. You know, I still got all my LED lights, you know, my candles and stuff, man. And
I've got my LEDs in here too.
We're all composers have, man. I think we've got this edgy sort of it's, you know, 2 a.m. and you're
it's like
in your piece.
I'm
you know,
here and I'm doing my thing,
and it's not. You need to be in bed at 2 a.m. really, unless your hands.
100%.
But even I think I watched a podcast with Junkie XL, you know, Tom Hulkenberg, and he was saying that realistically he doesn't write any more than about 2.5 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah,
because
100%.
the rest of the day He's talking to directors. He's he's organizing musicians. He's organizing recording sessions. Someone's got to come in and stem his, because he's not stemming his stuff anymore, man. Someone's coming in and doing that. But it's like, there's no way. And I think even if you look at like remote control productions, it's like, I think Zimmer to begin with is in the studio late, is writing late, is on it late. But once he's got
that's his thing.
That's it. But I feel like once he's got that like 20-minute, half an hour suite, there's 20 other guys that are in the studio, man, and they're programming bits and making them sound better. And so I think there's this. I think there's this kind of. There's always this sort of, you know, I think doing the job versus the kind of idea of what the job is. And we are talking about, well, I suppose this might apply to everything. This might apply to editing. Editing. You're editing for 2-3 hours.
Everything. You just can't do that. So, do you have a Stream Deck?
I do, man. I do, right in front of me right here.
Do you have the timer?
No.
On yours? All right. So, on my Stream Deck, I actually have a time. Let me get to that menu.
Is that a thing? I'm gonna have to install that, man.
Oh, it's one of those like, you know, because it's
just ticking your life down on the deadline.
It does, man, and you're like, but you're setting yourself up with these parameters, you know. And the worst thing in the world for me is to have an empty schedule. You know, if I know that, like, hey, you know, I have nothing to do today, because I'm the type of guy where I'll start walking around the house. I'll go in the garage. I'll go outside and I'll just start looking for things. I'm like, oh, there's weeds in my flower bed. So I'll start pulling those out, and then I'll get halfway through that, and then something else will catch my eye. I'm like, oh, I got to go do that. Oh, I can't do that until I get that done. And then the next thing, I've got like 5 little projects that I'm working on, and it's just compounded. And I'm sure there's people out there going, yeah, I'm guilty of that, because those of us that are in the creative space, that's how our brains operate. You know, it's that da-da-da, ooh, shiny, da-da-da, ooh, shiny, da-da-da. And then you're like, oh, I can do this, and I can do this, and make this happen here, and blah, 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 blah. And yes, don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that. You just learn how to control it and how to compartmentalize and say, okay, you know, here is my schedule. All right. And it took me a long time to get here. And it's, I just had an old man moment after saying that. I just went back to like, I feel like I've watched like a Trevor Morris interview where he had said something like this, and probably like a Harry Gregson Williams, like, you know, where, you know, you had to just put your foot down and say, like, this is how I have to do my day. So I wake up in the morning, right? Get my kids ready, take them to school, you know, make breakfast, whatnot. So when I come home on a normal day, when there's nothing like really serious that has to get done, okay, on a normal day, after I get home, I go for a walk. I walk for like 3 miles. You know what I mean? It's because it's summer and it's hot where I live. I'm not running, you know, so I'm outside, and at the end of my 3-mile walk, man, this sucks. It's so hot here. And then I come in the house, and I take my kids to school around like 7:15 in the morning. Right. So I come home and I go for a walk. So by the time I come back, you know, it's pushing 8 o'clock, you know, come in, I make breakfast, take a shower, or I work out a little bit more, just home stuff. You know, I don't go to the gym. I don't spend money where I don't have to. You know what I mean? That's still me time. You know, I might throw in a load of laundry, like doing the domestic stuff. Realistically, I don't sit down and start working until like 9. And then I go from about 9 to 11, 11:30, 12, if I'm really got a lot to do. And in that time, I have to figure out, okay, what is today? Am I being creative today? Am I doing scheduling today? Like, what are the things that I have to do? Or if there is already something that I have going on, I'll just work through that sequentially. Stop for lunch, you know, and then by, you know, 2 o'clock, I gotta be out the door to go get my kids. And, you know, at first, you know, when that process first started in my life, it's like, man, this is eating up so much of my time when I'm in the studio and blah, blah, blah. No, it forces you. What you could have just leisurely done, you now have to just get her done. you know, and you need to compose, let's say 5 minutes worth of music, and you have 2 hours of your day to dedicate towards that. And you'll find that with practice, and just that persistent, working on getting that focus in, that it will happen. It's not going to happen the first day. It's not going to happen that first week, but over the course of 2-3 weeks, you're going to be able to take all of that time, that leisurely time that you would spend kind of half in it composing. And now it's like, you'll just automatically go, okay, I'm here to do this. And I used to do that to my students a lot. Especially with the high schoolers back when I was teaching, in the hallway where we were, you had to walk, come down this hallway, turn to get into the choral classroom. And we always started every day with physical warm-ups, physical exercises, because you got to warm the body up to sing.
That's right.
Right. In order to get full diaphragmatic support, and you're activating your core and getting all that jazz. Well, we would always do that it was the band, the Algorithm song, The Boot or something like that. It was super like in your face, really fast, like 180 BPM type of deal. Well, what I would start to do, especially like middle of the year when I first started to implement it, is I would turn not that specific song, but music similar to it, and they could hear it in the hallway. So I was training these teenagers as they would come around that corner and they would hear it, their bodies were already starting to get into
workout time. Yeah.
Exactly. It's no different than, playing a sport. And you're in the locker room, you're getting your stuff on, your body's already starting to activate itself to get ready for the thing you're about to go do. And a bunch of, if you YouTube ESPN marching band or something along those lines, do some keyword searches, but you will find that ESPN and there was a professor, I don't remember what college, but they did a bunch of studies on marching band members and Broadway actors and things like that. And they had all the harnesses and the sensors and everything all over them. They were monitoring their O2 levels, their heart rates, et cetera. And they were showcasing that even before they did the thing, their bodies were already activated.
Ready for doing it. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's what you do upstairs. That's what you do that mentally. That is a mental process that you tell your body to do. Well, as a composer, you do the exact same thing, or a location sound, or whatever it is that you're doing. Scheduling, you're activating and saying like, no, right now I'm sitting down and I'm doing this because that's the schedule. That's the process that you have told your body to activate to, So
I think it's so important, man. I think it's real. Like I'm loving the way this conversation is going, because it's kind of, I think we all come into a similar place. Like when I was younger and kind of just graduated, my health was the last thing I thought about. I still got some weight to go, but man, I used to be a big guy. And I found that I would be up late, then you sleep like shit. Then you come into your job, you're feeling tired, you've not looked after yourself, right? And I found that the way you've approached that is almost like if you wake yourself up in the morning. So I'll do a similar thing. I'll try and get up early now. I come to the schedule early. So I'm trying to do my scheduling before 7 a.m. and I'll plan my day how I kind of want that to look like. And that will include an hour walk, a 20-minute catch up with a friend, or whatever else. And I try to set those down, because I never used to do that. I used to just be work, and you'd burn yourself out. But I find that, man, if you can come to the sequencer, around 9, you've done some exercise, you've stressed your body, you've had some food, you're kind of ready to sit down and think for a while. Yeah. Whereas if you're kind of, I find if you just roll out of bed rolling out of bed and going on your phone as well is the worst thing you could possibly do for yourself in the morning, man. Do not do that.
Don't get on your phone.
I find that you sit down and you've kind of, any mental battle you're going through, you've kind of sort of had that fight with yourself on that walk. Or I got some light free weights here, and sometimes I just do a little bit of movement. I don't even call it working out. It's just movement.
Yeah. It's just, especially smartwatches, like it'll say, how many of you out there, it'll go ding, you haven't moved in 25 minutes or whatever, get up and literally just just move your body around, get that blood flowing. When I get frustrated, or if I'm like, I just need to, and I literally started, I mean, I had other reasons why I was doing it, but one of the main big reasons why I started the garden in my backyard was to force me to get up. There was a guy that, and I can't remember his name. I watched a couple of his YouTube episodes. I mean, this was years ago, but he's a composer. And some of you probably know who I'm talking about. He has like a little hobby farm. He's got like goats and all kinds of stuff in his backyard. And what he was saying, he said, nice. It forces me to get up and go take care of things that require my attention. And he said, it refreshes me. It was this and that. I mean, this was years ago when I saw this, and it really stuck with me. And it's kind of one of those like, duh moments, you know? And I think it's funny how all of this kind of started around, I asked a question about that timer, because like it'll go off and my son, who's in first grade, will walk in and he'll say, Daddy, why are you still sitting at the desk? You know, I heard your timer. And he'll, all right, bud, fine. And I'll get up. You know what I mean? But yeah, you've got to, you have to have that separation. Now, and I don't know if you were always more of the night guy, Mike. I was the morning lark. You know, I liked to just get up and roll straight in here in the morning. I hate doing work like after 4 o'clock. My brain is fatigued. I'm tired. I just want to relax for the rest of the night, because if I go to bed after working, I'm firing and I can't sleep. So I'm like the exact opposite. When I wake up, I'm going, all right, I have 1,000 ideas. Let's get them down. And when you're young in your career, you can do those types of things.
Agreed.
Because you don't have all of the scheduling and the managerial and the bookkeeping, you know, all of those things that will come. And maybe you have 1 or 2, but when you're doing it full time and you have other people that rely on you, and I'm not talking about being married with a family or being, you know, single and it's just you, but you have a company, you have other people, you know, so just always constantly compound that on itself. Like, you know, early on, yeah, you might be saying there, oh, well, you know, composing in the morning is great for me. Okay, maybe that's your thing. So roll out of bed, grab your cup of coffee and your, you know, Belvita bar and sit down and do your thing for like an hour or 2 and then walk away, go do something else. It's just like studying. I mean, you're a professor, you know, what's the rule? You're supposed to study for like 20 minutes hard and then walk away for like 10 or 15 minutes and then come back to it, you know? It's that same type of thing. All of those things that you learn, whether it's, you know, you're in school, the collegiate setting, the workforce, whatever, do the thing, but only do the thing for a certain period of time. Even in the military, right? We'll go for, you know, 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes, you know, you're only supposed to go a certain amount of time, but we'll push it every now and then. But you are required to take a 15-minute break. So like we'll go for an hour, and then we have to take a 15-minute break.
Order. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you're doing it.
And I mean, like whoever's the seer, they'll say like, all right, we are pausing. Everybody has 15 minutes. And then after that, we'll go again. And then it's a 10-minute break every hour, you know, depending on what it is that we're working on, because they understand the mental fatigue, you know, in a classroom setting. And I'm sorry, but if you're sitting, you know, at a piano or a tablet or whatever, and you are composing, that is an academic.
It is, yeah, it is. I found this because, you know, obviously this lecture is a new thing for me, right? And when I first walked into that kind of lecture hall, you know, I had so much energy and was so passionate about what I was talking about, and I suddenly realized, like, these poor guys, I'm sitting here talking at them for 4 hours.
Yeah,
it's too much, man. Like, if you start reading the room, yes, some of them who are really perhaps into that module, you can see, you know, and I thought, no, this isn't working. And I started going, right, I put more breaks in. I started doing more workshop stuff, you know, and suddenly I found that perhaps I didn't deliver as much content within that particular lecture that I wanted to, because I wanted to give them as much knowledge as I possibly could every lesson. But what I failed to recognize was I was actually doing the opposite, because I was just bombarding them, you know, sitting there talking about magic lanterns and you know, and all this sort of stuff, and which is fascinating stuff. And again, some of them were into it, some of them weren't, but it's that kind of thing. And I find mixing as well. And obviously we've come in it a lot of this conversation from like composition, but when I was mixing bands, it was kind of like, right, do 2-3 hours. My ears are fatigued. Go outside. 20-30 minutes, go and get some nature, get some sun, come back. Oh, okay, I can hear that a bit clearer now. Then go back outside 2-3 hours later. Do the same thing. I mean, Trevor Morris's schedule was a little bit crazy, but he has to write. He has to write 2-3 minutes a day. He has to, especially for TV. I don't know how well I'd fare in that.
I could do it.
I think you could learn to do it, but I think
he also has people. He can come up with this just like all, and I do want to come back to what you were just saying, but just a quick little tangent.
Yeah, of course,
in there.
man, of course.
We cannot compare ourselves to John Williams, Trevor Morris, Harry Gregson Williams, Howard Shore. We can't.
No.
These guys, first of all, they are at a level where they have a whole team of people where they can go, hey, here's my idea. Go make
something out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they'll say, yeah, here are the parts, and then those people, will transcribe that melody and that chord structure into the horns, the this, the that, so on and so forth. They will, like you said, get those stem deliveries ready to rock. Like they will go do the things that way. They can go handle their things. Like
exactly that.
Most of us don't have that. Like even Mike, with you and I don't have an assistant. I have people that I can farm something out to if the budget's there. But yeah, I mean, you people can, and all of us are guilty of it. All of us are guilty of oh, I just want to be that. Yeah, but we're not there yet.
That's right.
Like, and it doesn't matter. If you go to work at a brand new job, chances are you're going to start somewhere around the bottom, maybe the middle, depending on your background. And even though you might be qualified to do this, you shouldn't be.
That's right.
Because you don't have that experience
and exactly that.
Exactly.
I mean,
so
yeah. And it's like you said at the beginning of the conversation. If you're struggling to kind of like get out of bed in the morning and you haven't even got your house, you've got no clean underwear. How are you gonna go and run a team, man? Or you're just not gonna be able to do it. And I think it's that kind of I mean, man, when I first graduated, I remember I'd be like, I get a pitch through. So I'd be visiting family somewhere. I get an email or, the Skype call at like 3 a.m. because obviously it's LA calling me, right? So that's 8 hours for me in London. And man, I remember getting up and driving home, 3 a.m. And my dad, where you gone, mate? And the next day, sorry, I had to, and then I'd work like 2 days solid on this pitch, get the pitch in. Yep. And then I didn't have the mental, if I didn't hear any, like I'd then sit there and wait. And then I'd start getting mentally like obsessed with the pitch, man. And to the point where you're then not writing any more music, right? Now, I don't work that hard. I'll look at the pitch and be like, can I actually physically do this? I've got 4 lectures to do tomorrow and I'm right in the middle of, I've got 3 podcasts. So I'm going to have to step out of this one, right? But if I can do the pitch, I'll work just as diligently, but more effectively. I'm not going to be up at 3 a.m. because most of that work you're doing at 3 a.m. sucks anyway, right? Yeah. You just going back to the save session from 5 hours earlier kind of thing, but I also just move on. It's like, I know right now I've got 5 pitches I put out, I'm going to say coming up 6 weeks ago, right? They haven't paid me. I don't know whether they're paying. I don't want to
talk about that topic right now.
We're all there, right? We've all got unpaid invoices. Right? We've all, but I'll be chasing it. It's in the schedule for Monday, right? Because I still don't like Mondays, despite my life. I don't know why. It's just to say about Mondays for me, right? So I do my sort of like it's sort of bitchy Mike on a Monday. Do you know what I mean? It's my Twitter day. Is Mondays. So yeah. But I'll chase it. But it's like, and I want to know what's happening with it. But I also understand how slow this industry moves, and I know that. It might be that someone it's just to communicate. Like, it would be nice if they emailed me, say, "Hey, Mike, the pitch hasn't been placed yet. It's going to be. We're delayed." Then I'd know what's going on. But sometimes it's not that your pitch sucked. It's just that it's sitting in someone's inbox and it hasn't been placed.
Exactly. It just hasn't gotten there yet. And then if the pitch lands, depending on what it is that it's going for, like, you don't get paid, even though you're the one that made it. You might not get a payment for 9 months.
That's right. That's right.
You can't, and that's a big issue with new people in this industry. And again, I just had another old man moment where I'm sitting there. So a friend of mine, Michael Fisher, do you know that name?
I do. Why do I know that name though?
He handles, so Ghost Rider. He's one of the Ghost Rider guys.
Okay, cool. Got you.
He's a buddy of mine. But it's the same type of thing. Like, we've never physically met, but we've known each other for so long, you know, and every now and then, if I have a question or anything like that, I'll shoot him a message, or we'll hop on a call. And I remember this would have been probably like 3 or 4 years before he started landing some of his big stuff that he's doing now. And I remember calling him up and saying, like, how does this work? Like, you compose full time. Like, how do you do that? You know? And he had the whole licensing and this and that and writing for libraries and so on and so forth. And he said, you got to have your managerial skills set. And he said, and you always have to be doing, you can't do this job and expect this payment. You know, location sound folks, yeah, that's how that works. Mm-hmm. You know, I have been on very few jobs where I did not take a deposit up front or get my final payment before I give my deliverables out. And that's just kind of a rule for me because I have been burned. Mm-hmm. And some of them pretty bad. And I'm sitting there going like, dude, you got to pay up, man. You know, you owe me an incredible amount of money. And it's coming. Now, you can get angry, or you got to take off that cap. And again, it's all about that compartmentalizing, because you got to remember that, and I'm not defending this situation that I'm currently in, but they literally might not have the money to pay me. So they're waiting on their check to then pay me. Now, I don't operate that way. You know, if I hire people, I pay them.
You've done the budgeting beforehand. Yeah.
Right. If I know that there's a chance that I might not get all the money that I need up front to pay them, I will have an agreement set up in place beforehand. Like, you know, one job I had, 3 or 4 people I had to pay. 3 of them I was able to give a check that day, and this one I was only able to give half. Now that one made a whole lot more, so they still were equal, in everybody else. But I said, look, man, I really need you to wait like a week because I got to get paid from this in order for me to legitimately have the money to pay that. But that was set up in advance, so they knew that was coming. You know what I mean?
And you paid 50%. So it's not like you left them just completely high and dry.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that is that like contractor mentality. Yeah. But if you are involved in libraries or getting placements or getting this and that, man, you're playing the long game.
Yep.
You know,
and it's about being prolific. Exactly.
You've got to keep that, and it's hard. It's really difficult to do that. And Mike, you'll be able to speak, and I'd be curious your take on this. And because I've heard a lot of other people, Ann Dern. What is her? It's Ann. I think it's Ann something Dern. She's becoming very popular on YouTube right now. She's a big composer.
Okay.
Not like, and she'll even admit this. She's not like a Trevor Morris, Howard Shore level, but she's up there. She's pretty humble, and I like watching her stuff. But even she will say that, like, you could be very established in what you do and send out 10 pitches and all of them get rejected.
Yeah.
And we kind of touched on this earlier. Mike, how often does that happen to you? You know, like when you'll send out pitches.
All the time. I mean, and I think it's how you, I think the situation you can get stuck in terms of the sync world now is it does kind of suck because there's so many of us doing this, and because it's become so, if I look at the sample, I mean, look at that East West Composer Cloud, man. Back when I was buying them, it was like $500 for one pack. And they sent you this massive. I mean, they're all up on my shelf. I don't know if anyone can see it. They probably can't, but they're all sitting. I've still got them, man. These great big boxes to come in with all the CDs.
Yeah,
it cost a lot of money to get the libraries, right? And then you had to have the computing power to run the libraries, right? Yep. Now you're paying what student version? What I think it's something like 50.
Yeah, it's like $300 or not even
for the entire library, and I mean the
limited. I have figured that out though. It's still you still don't get everything.
Okay,
like
still limit you a bit.
with East West Composer, there are some, because I have to use that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not rich, you know, I can't afford their whole thing. But the Composer Cloud, there are still packs that you cannot get in the Composer Cloud. So they do kind of have you a little bit there. But no, I'm with you. I'm tracking with what you're saying. How
so this is
this is the thing. High-powered laptop. You know,
it's just MacBook. People, you can just grab a MacBook, Composer Cloud, and a well, you don't even need a MacBook. You can grab a relatively decent, load up Reaper Composer Cloud, get yourself a Slate Digital pack as well on a monthly pack, and suddenly you can. I mean, of course, there's the skills of composing and the mixing and the mastering, and it's not you know, it's not exactly like anyone can do this, right? But there's a lot more opportunity now, is what I'm saying, than there was. So what I'm finding is it's kind of. I will get these things sent to me where it's kind of like, we want you to write 2 to 3 tracks in this style. We're going to pay you $150 per track, end of.
Right.
You know, and you have to have a conversation with yourself at that stage. You know, if it's, part of me wants to say never do that, because what you're almost doing is you're cheapening the entire industry, and you're making it acceptable for those, because they suck, man. You could give me some royalties. You could cut me in, even if it was 10%, you could cut me in 10% of that broadcast royalty, right? That performance royalty, but you're not doing that. And I feel like a lot of people kind of, if I'm really skinned, I will do it, you know, but I'm careful with what I do. If it's a sound design piece where I can grab my Zoom recorder, go and record like I don't know, something in the road, and time stretch it and reverse it, and just get something done fairly quickly and kind of have a bit of fun with it, and it's not going to take me more than 4 or 5 hours. Right. Maybe I'll do that if I need to pay the rent or whatever else, right? But I'm finding it more and more in the sync world that you're operating, as you say, 9 months ahead of yourself. And I do find sometimes that as well, you'll do a cue and you'll throw it to library and you just forget about it. It might be a cue you did 10 years ago. Suddenly it's appeared on your statement. You're like, what? That was placed on Discovery in Sweden? Why? You know, kind of thing. And you look into it. But I think in a way I don't know. I feel like it can be quite a lonely world working to sync. You're not really in a team. You don't really get near the editor. You don't really get any visuals. You know, you're someone else is then cutting your cue, cutting the trailer to your cue. So it's exciting in terms of trying to wait. Hey, what was my music on? Like, you know, my stuff ended up a lot of true crime on Discovery's liking me at the moment. I keep getting synced to these sort of true crime sort of documentaries, which is cool, you know. But I hear you, man. It's kind of, you've definitely got to throw them out. And it's even, I mean, even Hans Zimmer, apparently every one of those skulls that's in his studio represents a rejected score.
I did not know that.
Even he's kind of been through what we're talking about, you know. It's kind of, you know, or that, you know, that famous story with Kubrick and Alex North, I believe it's Alex North, where he composed, you know, an entire score for 2001. You know, composed it, recorded it. You know, did the whole thing. Turns up at the premiere, nice suit, you know, sitting down at the back, ready to watch the film. Not one of his cues was in the film. Kubrick had gone with the temp music, and he was a respected composer. So Bernard Herrmann had his scores rejected. Trevor Morris loads of times. You know, the first Alien, there's an Alien rejected score that Goldsmith had to do again. You know, you did that again there, mate. You know,
that was all me. I've had people, no joke, they'll send me messages, not text, but like social media stuff, like, are you related? I don't know,
maybe.
I don't know. I'm sure maybe in like antiquities there was we came from the same tree.
Something. Exactly. But I don't know. I think it comes down to really, I mean, a lot of this conversation really so far has been around resilience and kind of.
It is 100%. You can't have thin skin and be in this industry. You just can't, you know, because a lot of times, and two, what will happen, you're going to become friends with these people. You know, if you're not a friend already and you're just a business acquaintance, the more you work with them, there will be, and it might just be a professional friendship.
That's right.
But you're still going to be a friend there. And there are going to be times where you're going to feel like they're screwing you. They're not. Well, hopefully not. You know, that's just the way that thing happened. You know, I'm supposed to be on set right now. I am, and I got a text yesterday that said the client / the budget, so we can't use you now. And I'm going, that sucks. Again.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, like, how does a client / a budget
the day before it's happening?
Yeah, the day before, like that. I was that, but I'm not the PM. Mm-hmm. I was just a body there. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the thing. It's the thing as well. One of my buddies, he's up there at the moment in Cheltenham, in the Cotswolds in the UK. It's kind of like Middle England sort of thing, and he's filming a big BBC documentary up there. I think it's a side. I don't really watch much of these shows, but I think it's like a sideline of Father Brown. So it's quite a big thing over here, right? It's quite a big show, and he was saying that one of the leads is ill, and because that's it, they're on. She's ill, so the whole team is sort of sitting there, but the whole thing's now got to be rescheduled, and it comes into what you were saying. It's if they've delayed the show by just as much as say 2-3 weeks, if that's not contractually in there, if some of those crew have got to go on to another production. The whole thing's a problem. So that's the only way I could see that on terms of a set is if suddenly the lead lady or the lead, whatever is gone down, and then what are you doing all day then?
That happened to me 3 times this summer, where we had a really big. Well, no, we had a really big job lined up, and it was just going to be me and like 2 other people. Well, the airlines. Remember back in like June. Yeah. When all the airlines were like canceling everybody and postponing, well, it was the day before because we had a director and a DP was coming from another part of the country here to film, and utilizing just a little bit of my crew, myself and my crew for that. So I was like here in this region, PMing the whole thing and then doing location sound. So I'm pulling permits, I'm dealing with the city and blah, blah, blah. Mind you, I started as a composer in this industry. So just to bring that little nugget back in 20 minutes ago, you never know where you're going to end up. If you have a skill, utilize it, because you might need to diversify. You probably will have to diversify your portfolio. So, but I'm doing all this stuff, and then my phone goes off Thursday, and it's, hey man, there's a situation, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm going, oh no. Because I had to say no to a bunch of other jobs that weekend. Yeah. It's crazy. You have nothing to do, or everything happens at once.
Yeah, of course.
And so here I am, and I'm going, like, me and my crew, we're out that whole weekend. We just lost that job, and then all of those other jobs that we had to say no to because of that. So long story short, everything got postponed. And it took like another month because then the client, all of that needs to be rescheduled, and then that needs to be rescheduled, and this, that, and the other. And then I ended up having to pull in more people from here because his DP couldn't come anymore because they were in Italy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where you have to be malleable. You have to understand that like one little cog could pop out. And hopefully it doesn't, but it could rework an entire thing. And you just can't let something like that hold you up mentally or anything.
Right. That's right. No, that's right. And I think it's one thing I said that came to mind earlier when you said about, where you lost that audio job, say. I think you've lost many jobs, but it's a case of if you allow it to kind of affect your craft, so to speak, you're just not going to do anything the rest of the week, and then you're going to lose more money, then you're going to lose more clients. I feel like you sometimes got to sort of like, okay, this guy in this particular field is giving me a huge amount of grief. He's not paid my invoice. I'm really fed up with him, right? I'm angry, I'm annoyed. But then you've got this gig sitting here that still needs doing. It's like you need to park that with that project, not let it spill into this project, and I think as well, it's something I was telling the guys, because I ran a module. It was a final year module that, music and sound design for media. So it covered Foley, it covered music, it covered field recording. Yeah. And I was trying to say, as you've said to the guys, it's like, look, if your composer work dries up, go and grab a boom pole.
Yeah.
Most people can get a job booming, right? It's long hours and you're sitting there, whatever else, but just go and do it because it can pay your bills. And another thing I kept saying to them, do not go into this industry with no money in your bank account.
Yeah, you cannot do it.
You have to have that, but you have to know at least 3 months you can survive.
Yeah.
You know, it's just don't don't do it, man.
And I'm glad you said it in the way that you just said it. So if you are single, I would agree to the 3 month bit. Okay. If you are not single, if you have children, okay, this is where that is. Okay. Because this is kind of how it worked for me. I taught for 12 years. Okay. And I always said that when it got to the point to where I had to pick between the business or teaching, you know, and everything in life worked out, I was going to make that jump. As a father, okay, and a husband, house, you know, for all my first world problems that I have, right? You know, and I say that, and I do mean that in a sincere way, because first world problems, there is the sarcastic, but then there's the real.
It's absolutely
the real first world problems. Okay. My rule is you need to be able to sustain yourself for 9 months to a year without work. If you can't, you're really not ready. Now what I mean by that is, and I know some people just went, oh, you know, no, if your spouse, if you're saying whatever, if you can legitimately stop and say, I could sit in this chair and not move for a whole year and my bills are paid. If you can do that, then that's a really comfortable time for you to dive into this full time.
And create.
Exactly. Now, if you have a partner that has a job, then yeah, I would be comfortable saying like 3 months and whatnot. But you can't come into it broke. You know what happens if you're on set or you're sitting here composing and a drive goes bad?
Yep.
A speaker blows. I had that happen to me. So I'm running the Atom A7Xs. They're and I bought them specifically for the ribbons.
Yeah. They're nice speakers, man.
They are, man. My ears fatigue very quickly. Now, I just went to an audiologist. I got everything checked and everything. My hearing is perfect. And I said, then doc, what's the deal? I get tinnitus and they fatigue. And it was one of those, you're getting old. You know, he said it comes with age. I'm like, thanks.
Yes. Thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to really take a look at, you know, like what equipment are you using, you know, and don't go out and drop an incredible amount of money that you don't have. I've had to, and Mike, you too, I've watched your studio, you know, evolve and change. I mean, and I actually just found some pictures of the studio that I used to have when I lived in Maryland. And I converted one of my, I had like a little single car garage and I converted that. I mean, I had like stage monitors, you know, here, and these little like Roland speakers that I was, and I'm going, you know, but at the time it was awesome,
of course,
you know, and now, you know, I look around and I don't need the big this and that, you know, and, you know, I don't have cabinets, you know, that I made out of the spare lumber sitting over there. Like you gotta take your time and roll with it. But you know, when you do it in that capacity, when you don't charge in full steam ahead, you're going to allow yourself to make small mistakes and then learn from those small mistakes, you know, and go like a mouse. You know, I've been looking, so I use this guy, right? And so I'm sitting there like this all the time. Well, I got golfer's elbow really bad, really badly, like 6 months ago. I mean, I had to wear the little strap. You know, I had to do like certain massage techniques, you know, icy hot, you know, multiple times a day. And it killed me to do this. Well, in my Amazon cart, I had the one mouse that where the ball sits like right here.
Yeah, got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I read reviews at forums, and it was like, oh, it's the most ergonomic thing ever.
Oh, the Kensington one.
Yeah, the Kensington one. Yeah. That was like, they're expensive.
Yep.
So I bought it, and life got really busy. So it sat in its little box right here, and I was super excited. And when I finally got back and I plugged everything in, and it was funny, the day I plugged it in, I had a session. So there's a there's a guy here that lives in my area that I'm helping produce. So he came over and I was so excited. I'm going,
how the hell do I use this thing?
I couldn't use it. My entire workflow was ruined. And he's sitting there and I'm like, man, I look like a chump right now.
Yeah.
And I unplugged it and this was sitting in, in a cupboard. So I pulled that back out and plugged that back in. And I couldn't use it. You know what I mean? That was a mistake. It cost me some money, and it's now sitting on my wife's desk, and she doesn't even really like it, but I had already gone past that Amazon return window.
So I did.
Here I am stuck with this expensive mouse that nobody really likes. You know what I mean? But because I didn't just buy all of the things, that was a small mistake, That's why I wanted to be very long-winded on this silly, simple little story, but to illustrate the point that if I quit my job and I have $1,000 in my checking account and that's it, that little mouse mistake is a big deal.
Problem.
It's a big problem.
Yeah, 15% of it. It's one of those things, man. You are right, because drives will go. Things will go wrong, I got some solid advice really with regards to speakers years ago when I kind of first came to this. I didn't know what the hell I needed, and I just went down to the local kind of like, music store kind of thing, and was I think I bought like an M-Box 2, which came with Pro Tools, and they just said, look, just get I've still got them and I don't like them, but I know them. These KRK Rocket 5s. I don't like them at all.
Oh, the Rockets. Terrible.
Terrible. But they were like, what? I think they were about 175 quid each, like
and they look
$225,
cool.
And they look cool, whatever else. But I'm looking at them now going, come on, man, you're 34 now, Mike. It's time to sort yourself out and change them up. But I know them. Over 10 years I've used them.
Right.
So it's one of those things. It's kind of, I think people do get very involved in gear. And like I said earlier, you can, this subscription model, while it will probably potentially cost you more money in the long run, not really. Like if you buy the whole, if you were to buy the whole East-West library, I mean, it's probably 60, 70,000. Spitfire audio, so expensive. All these plugins, so expensive.
But they're amazing.
They are amazing, but my God, they're really expensive.
There are so many libraries from Spitfire I don't own. I can't afford them. No, I can't justify that expense. No. Can I use them? Yeah. Would they revolutionize some of my workflow? Oh, yeah. I can't justify the expense.
But then one thing I would say with East-West, because I started very much as an East-West user, yeah, man, very much back in the day, I was very much East-West. I didn't have really contact came in for me. I had Albion 1. So that's back, I think 2013 I had.
Yeah. I don't even have Albion.
And, what's interesting is obviously coming on to kind of like, because me and you are into similar styles of music as well, coming outside of that kind of like, like soundtracky stuff. We like our Vikings, Joe. Come on, man. We got to get it in there. We like our kind of like tribal music. Yeah. And those East-West libraries, that Raw Pack, that Silk Pack,
I love those.
Man, there's some awesome sounds in there, and you don't get that sort of stuff from Spitfire. You just don't.
No, you don't. You don't.
So I can't. There's a lot of knocking on East-West, and I don't get it really.
Honestly, I think East-West. My main issue is the processing. It's so heavy.
Yeah,
it's there. It's such a heavy load on my computer.
Mm-hmm. I do hear that, but aren't they working on their own engine? Like it's the new one, because I know they have Play.
Oh yeah, the new one's great.
Is it
the old one, man.
Is it Opus they're using now?
Yeah. That's I've totally abandoned. I really like Opus. It works really well. And I can make it real heavy with East-West usage now, thankfully. But nice. The old stuff. So like if any of you out there are still if you haven't gotten Opus, just do it.
Just get it.
Just do it and you won't regret it. It was like a lot of guys were holding on with Contact. They're like, I don't know yet. Just
that's very true, because man, when they first started, they did use Contact. I forgot that they did use Contact, then they went to Play. You know, but yeah, no, I still use it, man. There's a string arrangement I just did this all Hollywood strings, which is a pack I bought in 2013.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't go wrong on that, man. I want to move onto another subject here, just because I'm conscious of time. I know you are a busy man. That is for sure. Talk me through the Guard, man, because that's something that you also run your podcast. You know, you got Guardcast on here, which is linked to the website, and I find that kind of it's very much on point. I think with what we've spoken about as well. What kind of when did you join that?
So about 2 years ago. So like me, and I grew up around the military, and when it came time, I had a knee injury. And it wasn't like, I just, tackle and dislocate and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't anything like that. But what it was just from perpetual abuse of my knee. And it got all the tendons and ligaments and everything. It got so weak that, and I'll never forget the moment that light bulb turned off for me. I was in my bedroom. I was in high school, right? I was a senior in high school. And I crouched down to pick up an empty cardboard box and move it this way. And when I did it, my knee popped out of its socket. And so, I mean, I was riding dirt bikes, when I was little, skateboarding, BMXing, it just beaten my body up. All kinds of nonsense. I've broken a lot of bones, the whole 9 yards. And, I martial arts, which I continued on. So it's like, I was just that constant that. And, well, where I grew up was not too far away from Washington, D.C. So we were very blessed to be able to have like the president's own and all of these military music programs readily accessible. Like they would come to our schools and perform because that's just part of the workflow for them. So as a high schooler, as a high school singer, I was being adjudicated by, Marines. And me and all my buddies, here we are, we're singing and performing, and we have, these Marines in front of us in full uniform because they are professional musicians, they are professional, singers and this, that, but their job is they do all that for the military. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to enlist in the Marines, and get my MOS and audition and hopefully get into the president's own. With the fallback being another MOS, within the Marine Corps. Well, my knee kept me out of that, like 100%. I mean, I was with recruiters. I did everything. And a lot of people, I don't even know if my family really knows like how far I down that rabbit hole I went. But it didn't happen. And the conversation that was had was they said, look, you're going to get recycled. You're going to hurt, you're going to dislocate your knee again, and then you're out. And they said,
it's just going to keep perpetuating the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And they said, you can do it and take the slot of somebody who is healthy, who is ready to go, or they said the choice is up to you. And I was like, all right, there was a nice little guilt trip, but I appreciated the fact that they said that to me, and I wasn't just another number. I wasn't just filling a quota. It was risk assessment. That's all it was for them. And I walked away from that dream for a while, and continue, finished out my college education and whatnot. Well, then I had some other opportunities with the Air Force. I had children that were brand new to this world, and I didn't have the heart, and I still don't have the heart, to peace out from them for months on end.
Of course.
I turned those down, and so I was talking with some friends of mine. They were retired colonels from the Air Force, which is how that whole bug happened over there. And this was, like a year or two later. And they said, have you thought about the Guard? I said, well, yeah. I said, but there's still X, Y, and Z. So the National Guard. And they said, did I say national? And I kind of went, no. I said State Guard. Google South Carolina State Guard, blah, blah, and look into it. And I said, okay. So I did. All my boxes were checked off. Everything was great. So I called him back a while later, and I said, hey, things seem to be good here, blah, blah. And they said, great. If you need a recommendation, you can tell them that the Brigadier General of the Maryland State Defense Force, gives you a recommendation. I didn't know that. I just thought that, they were a retired colonel from the Air Force, private contractor. I didn't realize who I was talking to, and this whole
Sure.
world was opened up to me. So got in, and I've been in for a number of years. And so what my MOS is, so I'm recently commissioned. I am now a lieutenant, and I'm no longer a sergeant. So you have, if you don't know, there's like enlisted soldiers, and then you have officers. And then you have this gray area in between called warrant officers. And if you have a college education, you are supposed to come in as an officer. Okay. There's two ways to stopping that. If there's not like slots available for you, like to come into a specific thing, then you can, be bumped down to enlisted, or you can elect to be enlisted. So with my education and my skill sets, what I was being brought in to do, there was not an officer slot available. So I had to come in enlisted, which there it is. That's what those, wherever it is. I'm really bad at this part. Those three stripes are right there.
It's just because your camera's mirrored, man.
Back there, yeah. Those three chevrons, those are sergeant stripes. So, I ran with that for a number of years, and I came in as a public affairs officer, or public affairs NCOIC, so non-commissioned officer in charge, and combat camera because of my background. They saw public relations with being a teacher, being able to interface with the community, having to do press releases for concerts, bookkeeping and logistics, moving human bodies from place to place, like having to go a competition here, taking, across the country, like in Maryland to Florida for Disney World. That's not close,
of course,
understanding risk assessment, liability, et cetera. So they saw that, they saw the education background. So being able to articulate, in writing, which is big for a lot of people. And then they saw the production company. So everything that I was doing, here, and they saw that as a way for me to utilize my skill sets, to, achieve their missions. And I came in, I fell in love with it. I absolutely love, everything that I'm doing. And after a lot of hard work, I finally been able to inchworm my way up and get that commission. So now I am in an OIC slot, an officer in charge slot over our entire battalion, which is the coast of South Carolina. Well, one of the initiatives that I started was the podcast, GuardCast, because when you look at the big six, Space Force, Army, Navy, et cetera, they have entire, divisions of people where that's what they do, entire teams of people where you all are the public affairs, you all are combat camera, you all are multimedia specialists, et cetera. Then once you get into the guards, those teams become a lot smaller. Sure. And I'm not even talking about just like from what we do here, but any specialty team is going to become a lot smaller. Well, that could be good or bad. If somebody is already there, and they're super happy and everything's great, they might be there for a while. Or there's availability because maybe people don't want to do those jobs, or maybe because somebody that was really specialized in that did end up going to the big six. You know what I mean?
So they're not started there, and they've got, understand.
Right. They're not looking for those other avenues to utilize that skill set, in a positive way. So when you're looking at, federal organizations, state organizations, be it military, government, et cetera, there are a lot of options out there. And that's what happened. I saw, this need that needed to be filled, because I remember, when I was driving to Boot, because I actually don't live too far away. It only took me a couple hours to get there. I was listening to podcasts on like what to expect and this and that and all these things. And when I got there, it was 100% not what I expected. Why? Because I was listening to things that were not related to what I was doing. I was listening to things that were related to, the Army. And while we do fall under all Army regs and if the Army does it, we like everything is still that hierarchy there. We are not the United States Army, right? We are the South Carolina State Guard. So there are still components about us that are separate. And so I just remember anxiety in a good way, but I
Of
remember
course.
having that anxiety and I went, yeah, I don't want other people to feel that way. So I spoke with Sergeant Major Cabe, who at the time he was the not the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge over boot over IET, that's initial entry training. And him and I had become really close. I did really well when I was going through that program, through the boot camp. And I did really well. I scored really high on the academic, et cetera. So him and I, we kind of hit it off. He's really big into history. I'm really big into history. We had a lot of stuff to talk about, and we maintained conversation. Well, I called him up and I said, Sergeant Major, I have an idea. And I pitched it to him, and I showed him a couple samples of, like the artwork that I have splashed in, and I showed him a couple of that, and I put together a pitch deck for him, and he liked it. And he said, this is a really good idea. This is something that we really need. And I said, I agree with you. I don't want to see new recruits coming in very, with a lot of anxiety. But not only that, somebody that might be interested in it. These are questions that can be answered, like how to, where to buy stuff from, how to salute, what side of the road to stand on, when you're walking down the street with somebody that has a higher rank than you, all these little things. So, I continue to develop and this and that and the other, and it's turned into, now I haven't posted in a few months because the summer has been ridiculous, but I'm like you, man, I've got a backlog. I've got a major down on the other end of the state that, I was talking to him the other day. He said, when are we doing that podcast?
When are we doing this podcast, mate? It's the same with me and you. Trust me, it took me a year to get this going again. Don't worry, man.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So,
but you you did, I'm just sorry to cut you there, man. You did do that video, which I thought was excellent. You did a promotional video of you guys going out. You were all going out, and I watched it and I was like, "That is."
You're talking
cool.
about the one where I'm like getting my rig on.
Yeah, man. I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was cool, man. That was really cool.
And so what I'm doing with all of that is, and again, I know this might seem irrelevant, but follow where I'm going with this. Because you're going to have to do this in the industry, and you'll see how all this will tie back in. I saw this. It was a very short deployment that we were going on. So I went to my commanding officer. So I'm on. I sit at battalion level, which is like our headquarters, our HHC for our battalion, and the coast of South Carolina. We control the whole coast. Okay. And so I went to my XO, my executive officer. He's next in line, chain of command for me. And I said, hey, sir, I didn't say, hey, I said, sir, would I have permission to bring in a civilian contractor, one of my guys, to come down and run camera with me? Because I'm always the one out there. And it's odd that I have this sitting right here with this heavy monster. And at the end of the day, I'm like this, and anybody that's a photographer, what I'm talking about. So, I'm in full kit and I'm running around and I'm doing this all day long, but I'm the public affairs liaison, and I always have a VIP next to me, whether in some form of CO that's there watching over the event. So I'm taking them from point A to point B. I'm interfacing with the news. I can't do that when I'm doing this. So this was my way of showcasing, hey, if we have somebody else running a camera on top of me, that's that much more effective that we can be. So that video that you saw, that's all like kind of epic and everything. That was another opportunity that I saw that falls into my lane, that I could put together a piece of content and then showcase it to those and explain, hey, this is why we need X, Y, and Z. So, coming in. And all they wanted was just like some social media stuff. Like they had very, I don't want to say low expectations, but it was, this is what we'd like, some newsletters and things like that. And it was just, I would do a little sample. What do you think about this? Do a little sample. What do you think about this? Do the podcast. What do you think about this? Do videos like that. And now, it's exploded to the point where, we're not getting orders to do these things, but all it does is help the mission. And ultimately the goal is, we want to be able to get more money in our budget, to be able to buy a better camera or some GoPros or this, that, and the other. So we're not walking around with all these, these things all day long. Taking all of that and bringing it back into, the real world and the civilian world, that's what you do. With those college jobs I was telling everybody about earlier, we came in at the 11th hour for that contractor going, we don't know what to do. Can you guys do this? Yeah, sure. I don't really know. Don't expect too much because it's the 11th hour, but we did a really good job. And then they called us back, and then we made that and we were able to add this asset into it. And because of that, they then trusted us to handle a little bit more. And then I was able to, find another friend of mine who is an amazing After Effects. I mean, he's a wizard at this thing. And I could bring him up because they had a need. Hey, we trust you a lot more. Do you think you can handle this element now? Let me make a phone call. And they understood what I meant. It wasn't let me see if we can. I'm going to go make this happen.
I'm going to go make the call and find someone who can help me with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what it was. So you got to do that as a young anything. And when I say young, I don't necessarily mean age. You could be 50 and be young in that profession, in that industry. You once you build that trust, people are going to call you. Man, I can't tell you how many times my phone goes off and somebody is just looking, say, hey, who do you know that can?
Yep.
And you can't always have a dollar sign attached to that. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, there have been times where I've just had to say, yeah, I can hook you up with a PA. Where that PA is going to go make, let's say $1,000 over the course of a few days. I'm not getting squat.
No.
But that your name is then associated with somebody that is helpful, somebody that is trustworthy, somebody that is honest, and eventually that dollar is going to get there.
It's going to come back to you in a different way. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
But I think it's like, yeah, exactly that. And I think it's kind of like there's a lot of kind of, you can kind of see people in a world like this. It's not everything I do is almost like, it's not like I walk around with a tally book. It's like, right. I helped this guy, so you better pay me back. It doesn't always, there's got to be a level of authenticity in this, of helping people.
Exactly.
Out. It's like some of the Discord conversations, perhaps not necessarily between us, because even though there's distance and, but I consider us friends, right? It was 7 years we've been talking on off.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get it, it's like someone joins the Discord and they start asking questions and I'm like, man, I just want to go to bed. Like I feel like I'm giving something back. And I think with GuardCast, that was an interesting conversation, obviously, that we had, because I didn't even, in the UK, we have obviously we have the Air Force, we have the RAF, we have the Navy, we have the Army, and then we have what's called the Territorial Army. And that's kind of, I suppose, like reserves in many cases. Okay. But that will be, I suppose, people who want to have an element of service, but they don't want to be completely in the service, so to speak. So they go perhaps 2 days a week or something like that. So they're still, they can get called up, and whatever else. And you've still got all the different divisions within there. So my father did that when he was a younger man. And so we have that here,
so that sounds like it's almost exactly like what this is.
It sounds like, because I didn't know, you broke it down for me a couple of years ago where you were saying, I didn't realize that you almost had the State Guard, the National Guard. Then you had the United States Army. Then you had, I didn't know that State Guard level kind of existed.
And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know that. Like even there, I've met National Guardsmen that don't even know we exist, Coast Guard, and I'm like, yeah, we all fall under.
We're all here, man. Exactly. So your podcast was, I think I'm up to episode. Yeah, I'm not. I haven't listened to the most recent one. But for me, it was
like 4 months ago.
It's just interesting to kind of get like, I'm just interested in how the West structured, right? So to me, that was like, okay, cool. And then that gives me an insight. Well, let alone if I was living in the States, but if, and I wanted to join up something, because some people want to join just to keep fit and learn some discipline.
Yeah. And that's,
but they don't want to do it full time,
Exactly. Coming up, and everything, like I'll listen to AuroraCast. We'll listen to these other podcasts. Why? Because we want to learn something. We want insight into that thing that we're interested in. So that's the whole purpose of GuardCast. I wanted to have, whether it's people who are prior, Big Six or in high school in JROTC, or just a civilian anywhere that's just curious, like, what is this? Being able to explain in small snippets, what are we, what do we do? And my, we do have our long-term goal. Each episode we break down something else, just like any podcast does, and talk about different initiatives and whatnot. Even down to like prepping your go bag, like showcasing that, hey, even as a civilian, your bag is going to look pretty similar to what you're going to see, in the service, and it's for information. It's to create conversation. And ultimately it's, creating awareness into opportunities that, you otherwise wouldn't have. Like, so going back to the one guy that actually videoed that captured the video for the one where I'm setting this up.
Yeah, I'm going to link it as well, man. I'm going to link it. So with this context there, I'll link all this stuff.
It was cool. It was cool. We had a really good time with that. And there's actually 2 videos that came out of that. There was one that I did where it started and it says like showtime and then it spins around. Man, I did that on my phone. I took his footage and some of mine, and I did that on the DJI app.
Brilliant. Love it.
But then the general's view, my concept was that I wanted that video I wanted them to the end user, the audience, to see what it would look like through the eyes of the general. Like, he's our main character. Like, what is he looking at? That type of deal. What are the things from his perspective? So of course, that was done in Premiere and so on and so forth. But that videographer that I was using, he was my neighbor at the time. He was like 21, 22, and I walked out and I was like, his name was Ethan. I said, hey dude, I got a question for you. You want to go to Charleston with me? And he went, why? And he knows about all this. So he knew I was going somewhere with this. And I said, look, man, here's my proposition. And I laid everything out. And he went, yeah.
Let me do it. Yeah.
That sounds like an opportunity that, like, when else am I going to be able to do something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, awesome. So I got credentials for him and whatnot. So here he is as a civilian. I got, permission for him to come in, and he's rolling behind the scenes with soldiers and all these government officials and all that. Like, you can't get that.
No, it's not something you're going to, 100%. You're not going to get it.
Exactly.
Not without joining.
Right. Exactly. So he took a chance with me for 2 days, being able to capture that. We got amazing content. And not only that, but he was able to see kind of the inner workings. And I actually messaged him the other day, and because he just put out a new logo for himself, and I was like, "Hey man, your new logo is pretty sweet." He was like, "Oh, thanks, blah. By the way, have you thought any more?" And he's getting his life started, so I was just egging him on a little bit. But because of that, and the media that we've been pumping out, because I've been looking at these opportunities, seeing these needs, and filling them. Because of this background. So here I am taking all of this. I've looked at another bug that I've been trying to fill almost my whole life, applying it in that industry, okay, filling the needs there. And now I can take all of that and put it back into this industry. See where I'm going with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Everything is tied in, It's diversification. Now you do what you are capable of doing. Obviously, not everybody can or wants to wear the ridiculous amount of hats that I do, but I still find days where I'm sitting going, yesterday morning, perfect example, I ended up watching Doctor Strange.
Because it's not, exactly.
Have I seen it before? Yep. Did I have? It. Yeah. Could I have been sitting here pumping out another this? Yeah, but no, I needed to just sit down and watch Doctor Strange.
But I think what you've done, just kind of obviously through the conversations we've had both, on and off air, so to speak, and just over the years, I think what you've done, you know, from sort of almost canvassing your career, I think you've always managed to apply your passions and your interests really well. You know, it's like when you go out, say like for the reenactments, you know, which we kind of touched on. You know, I noticed there's drone photography, and then there's like let's put some music to like a, you know, it'll be a promotional video that you're trying to do to help the community, just trying to build that. But you're almost applying the same thing you've done in the Guard to that. Absolutely. It's kind of like, and I like your kind of because this is a big concern of mine at the moment. Is that there was a report that came out this week that in terms of the UK, when it comes to music education, so people studying at school, so our secondary school, we call them GCSEs over here, right? So that's kind of what your pre-college qualifications, so to speak. It's the lowest it's ever been in history ever for students taking up music.
Really?
And I'm sitting there going, to me, that is a problem, and I want to know why that is. I want to know why that is, and I think it's the fact that they're cutting arts. I think part of it is that modern day music is so hyper produced; it's lost the groove a bit. I think it's perhaps not talking to kids in the way that it perhaps was. Perhaps there's an element of like distractions in that learning music is hard, and it's learning an instrument is hard, and it's quite a it's quite a lonely pursuit in many ways, which is why I think it's so important to join the band. But what's interesting is that, you know, my dad and my mum were in something I had over here called the Boys Brigade and the Girls Brigade, right? You know, and these were kind of community based. It was all through the church. It was a communities for boys and girls, and they did camps together, right? There's a whole bunch of activities they could do, right? And my dad would drum. You know, he was in the Boys Brigade band kind of thing. And they had kind of military as well that were around. Your kind of introduction was through military big band, I suppose we call it over here. But we're not, I feel like we're in the UK, we're not going into schools in that capacity anymore. Because if you were drawn to music, so to speak, from, I gather, obviously the respect of these guys, you know, these Marines, and then you're seeing, well, okay, these in their civilian life as well, they're actually musicians, and they've managed to take that to the forces. I mean, that's quite a big conversation around that. So the fact, I suppose that was maybe your kind of awakening into this big musical passion that became you, right? But now you've almost managed to come around the back of it, and you're sort of giving something back in that capacity.
Yep.
It's quite a kind of, I think if people can keep saying yes to things, but it's within their sphere of their values, right? Or their core interest, you're going to succeed generally.
Yeah, generally. I mean, there are going to be times when it doesn't work out. I mean, so like as far as the film side of everything, so when I stopped teaching the first time, okay, that was when I got married. I moved across the state, okay. And I moved on the promise of a teaching job, okay? And that music supervisor totally flaked out on me. And so in the sense of, not that he like didn't, but where I'm from, music supervisors have a little bit of pull where they can say, you know, call up principals and say, hey, I know you have some vacancies. I'm sending some candidates your way, and I really need you to hear them out, type of deal. Well, that didn't happen. So, and I mean, man, I interviewed at so many schools in those counties, and I always heard the same thing, which even then it didn't make any sense. And it doesn't make even more sense to me now. It was always one of two things. You're too expensive. And I'm going, it's a public school. Like that doesn't even apply. That doesn't make sense. So, and then the other one was, I can see you being so much better at you know, if I was applying to a middle school, you'd be so great at a high school. And I'm going, but I literally just stopped teaching at a middle school. What you're telling me, so translation, they wanted somebody green. They didn't want somebody with experience. It had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with anything. They wanted somebody that they could bully around. And so anyway, so here I am, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. You know what I mean? So that's when, I dabbled with the guitar, you know, I'm still not a guitarist. Like I could play chords and whatnot, but I ended up getting hired at a church to lead worship. So I'm up there like learning how to play these
learning
chords,
and playing on the
learning and playing, leading worship. I was there for 3 years. But while I was doing that, I also got signed as like a country rock artist with this one label. And I learned a lot. I'm not going to say that I had a good experience with them or a bad experience. Let's just say I had an experience with them. Okay. I learned a lot, and there were a lot of bad things and a lot of good things that came out of that time. Part of all of that was I started my record label that is around. I don't use it anymore, but I started my label that kind of joined theirs. It was niche-y. Well, that started that whole bug, so I was able to utilize all of the skill sets that I had learned, in college and teaching into that public relations and brand, because I had to build programs. I had to build these school programs. Yeah.
Which was it's building that it's built, and it's that, I suppose that's the first time that it brings you to almost like, oh, okay, this is now the music business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here I am. I'm learning about ISRC codes, UPC codes back in the day, because who makes CDs anymore?
Ryan.
I love it. You know what I mean? But like, I'm learning like what all those different codes mean and where to get them from, because CD Baby wasn't a thing. I mean, it was, but you were still utilizing disc makers, and whatever, and that other company that I always wanted to use, but they were just too expensive. And you were trying to go for like Sony Red and the Orchard back when they actually would answer their phone and return an email. Not that they do that anymore. Yes, that was a little dig, Orchard. If any of you were watching, I've been trying to get back with you for 2 years and nobody.
No one's answering. No one's talking.
And I had an account with them. I had an account with them for like 4 years. I mean, I could log into the dashboard. I had tons of artists that I was shipping through them through the label. And then, I'm fast forwarding through time a little bit there. I closed down, and it is what it is. But with all of that, I'm networking. I'm networking this whole time, right? So I'm utilizing my music as my music background, and helping these bands, and I'm doing brand development, and I'm learning all of this and applying it, just as a teacher does, Mike, how you're always like a week or two ahead of your students sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes a couple of days.
Right. But hey, you're like, hey, I knew it before you.
Yeah, that's it.
Or like you're explaining a concept to your students, and then the light bulb turns on in your head. And you're like, oh, now I get it. So from there, I ended up calling, and I'm not, because they'll get all fussy if I say their name. But I ended up contacting a film company in a city that wasn't too far away from me, because I had some questions about studios. And so conversation happened, and they ended up asking me if I would be interested in being their account executive. And they said, it doesn't exist, but we've been kicking around the idea. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went to work for a film company, a very successful film company, as their account executive. And I was there for a few months, and there's a whole story behind, why I left and et cetera. And we'll call it a difference of opinion. And we'll call it
the film industry.
Right, exactly. The film industry. Long story short, there was a situation that happened where they thought X, but it was Y. And all I had to do was explain it, but their minds were already made up. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever, I'm out. Well, I had learned a lot during that time frame. So because of all that, I ended up going back to teaching. Well, the school found out about all of that. So then I got stuck teaching multimedia. I didn't know what that was. I knew what it was, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so do you see how all these things are starting to happen? You know what I mean? And so here I am teaching for 3 years. I taught film because, this administration saw my past, and they saw that I was the only one in their building capable of doing that thing. So I was forced, comfort zone, what they needed me to do. I was forced there for 3 years trying to teach this dumping ground class, because that's all it was when I came in. It was literally, we need a place to put all these really bad kids. Not all of them, but Well, that doesn't fly. So I turned it into a real
class. A good class. Yeah.
Right. And I had to learn how to teach all of these things that I knew nothing about, like, the rule of thirds and all of this and that. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was an account executive for a film company. I didn't hold that camera, but I did it. Yeah, you just have to.
That's right.
Well, because of that situation and a few other situations, I was able to take all of that experience, and apply it, into other things I was interested in, for fun, for hobbies, for this, for that, all while still composing and writing jingles, for local businesses. Thank you for holding, doing voiceover, that type of jazz. And then when I finally moved and I started meeting real cinematographers where I currently live, we were able to
have a conversation,
have a real conversation. Yeah. And now I look back and I go, if one of those things did not happen in the very specific order that they happened, and if I wasn't aware enough to recognize this is a situation I'm in and I really got to do this for financial reasons, I'm not comfortable doing this, but I got to, then I would not be able to do what I'm doing now and rolling with the brands that I'm able to roll with. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't care how old, and I'm talking to the ether now, I don't care how old you are or where in the game you are. It's one thing to this is my track and I want to be a composer and that's it. Okay, cool, do that. But you're going to have to understand that at some point you are going to have to learn, this element of composition and this element of the industry. And you might have to hire other experts to do that for you, or in conjunction with you, because if that's all you want to tunnel vision, by all means. But I guarantee you talk to anybody that is successful. And I mean, like, middle class successful all the way through the tip top, all of them will know all the facets of the industry. But they're just at a point where they don't have to deal with it because they have people.
And they've got a process in place, right? They've got SLAs and
exactly.
They're off and they're just doing it. And I think that
exactly.
I think that's the thing. I think you got to keep. I mean, man, last week I did a gig. I did the website for someone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not what I want to do. It's just not. I don't find web design particularly interesting at all. But I've built both my websites. I can do it, and that's the thing. Is kind of even on the compositional side, like when I was teaching last semester, it's like I was saying to the guys, your composition now gets conflated very easily with sound design. You're going to end up doing parts of sound design. You're going to end up with a director who wants you to do something that isn't really music. So we're blurring those lines, and they're looking at most of them got it, but then I had to sort of show some examples of what I was talking about, and that I think there's just that in itself is like you never say no is what I'm saying. I think if you really don't know, like at the university, for instance, there was 2 roles I could have applied for. Ultimately, one was production and one was more performance based. Now I could have taught performance, but I don't have my grades. I need to do my grades. It's one thing in my life I want to do, man. Production's my bag, right? So I felt it would have been disingenuous to the students for me to take that performance job, whereas production is like, I've been doing that solid in many capacities. But through doing that now and being in that environment, I'm like, I'm doing my grades.
Yeah.
It's pushed me back into that. I was listening to Rogan a couple of days ago, and they were talking about this, about teachers and like people who say did martial arts, and then they went and taught martial arts. And they were saying that they actually improved. They were already good martial artists, right? But when they started teaching it, because they broke down their entire approach to everything, what they did, they suddenly are like kicking ass at it. And I think that's definitely, I think, like you said, all that work you did, essentially learning filmmaking. It means now that as a PM, when you're project managing for your business and you're talking to a DOP, you're talking to a colorist, you're talking to all these different roles, you kind of have you perhaps haven't sat in their chair, but you understand it, man.
And that's what I used to tell, like the video, my cinematographers here and my videographers, when we were first getting started, I said, guys, look, I can speak the language brokenly, but I can have that conversation with a lot of different departments. I said, I mean, how many times, like, when is a DP going to go talk to a composer?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. How often? I mean, like the director and the location sound guy, or sound person, okay, because we're in 2023,
Of course, man. Of course.
But you know what I mean? Like, there are certain roles that don't communicate with each other. But if you're the type of person where you can, those roles are really important. It might not be your passion, but if you're really good at it, or maybe in time, maybe that it's there and it just, you need to get out there and have that experience and polish everything up. Yeah. That might be what it was for you. And that's what my guys told me. They're like, man, you're such a PM. Like, and I remember even saying, like, what's a PM? And they went, a production manager. I went, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I kind of ignored that for a while. And then, it just organically happened. There was something I was going to say. So like, talking about like with, diversifying, just even just your not, maybe you don't necessarily do the thing, but just diversifying your understanding. And while I won't concede and say you should never say no, because you should, there are times when you just should say no. It's like, look, I can't work for that price. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, for that, without question.
Or you know what I mean? Or this gig is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry, but you're no, I'm not getting involved in that nonsense. But there's an animation company that I work for. I'm their audio director, and so when I first came on board, I came on under the assumption that I was just going to be writing their music and doing their sound effects and just compositional, and sound effects creation. No. So it was the same type of situation. The lady that runs this company, the animation company, she saw me again from a PM perspective and very quickly said, I'd like for you to build a department around this. And I think I even talked to you about that.
You did, yeah. We talked about
yeah,
that.
That's what I thought. And I do have some info for you on that front, but you'll see kind of where I'm going with this. Well, there was a major project that we were working on specifically for that. Well, that was like right before COVID, locked down the whole world. And then everything was kind of okay, kind of starting to move forward. And then what was it like a year and a half ago? That's when everything really just tanked. Mm-hmm. And so all the investors, for the show, pulled out and this and that. So we're all standing there going like, okay, now what? So now all of that building, all those possibilities were back to just me.
Just gone.
Yeah, just overnight, disappeared. Everything disappeared. All these things. I mean, we were going to build a sound stage here because there was that much was invested or in the process of being invested into this, that they didn't really want to ship things outside of the country if it could be avoided. They wanted to keep things here regionally in South Carolina. And all that poof, gone. Well, here I am, let's fast forward, and there's a new project that is being worked on. And I'm hardcore NDA'd on this. I cannot no,
of course, man. I completely understand that.
However, what I will say, it was the same type of situation where I needed to build up just a small team. So all I did was I took a proposal and I put it in. Like it was just an ROM, like a range of magnitude, which a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I didn't even know what an ROM was. You know what I mean? And that's just from getting in. And, somebody said, yeah, man, I just need your ROM. Well, a buddy of mine is a big shot business guy up in Baltimore. I mean, he's like a mentor, one of my life best friend, adult life best friends type of deal. And I remember I said, what's an ROM?
What's this?
I said, I don't know what this is. I said, I've Googled it, but I'm hearing a couple of different things or reading. And he said, dude, it all means the same thing. And I said, okay, cool. Explain it to me. Talk to me as the toddler. And he did. So now it was one of those like, oh yeah, okay, duh, that makes sense. So I just sent over an ROM and things move forward. I'm like, okay, great. This is awesome. You know, I can really start to reach out to, you know, my friend that does this. Again, I'm farming things out because I need a subject matter expert for this and this and this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you know, because then I'm not going, trying to do all of the things when I know, hey, here's our budget or our proposed budget. And I can say, hey, I have this for this, this for this, this for this. Can you? Okay, great. And we were about to start down that road. And then 2 days ago, get the phone call. Hey, we still have a budget, but it's only for you. All the other things have been slashed. You know, literally like everything has been slashed. And I will say this is a major international thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not the production company, but the thing that has an incredible amount of money is being cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
there's no need for them to do that. Basically, they could, yeah.
There is no need for them to be cheap. However, and we were frustrated. I'm like, come on, man, $1 billion company, and they're being cheap for this. Like, we're talking just a couple grand here, you know, for X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, talking to another individual that I know, and he makes the comment, because I was talking to him about it, and he was kind of involved in the project, so I could deliver a little bit of background. And he said, that makes sense. Yeah, the guy that sits next to me, he works on blah, 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 blah for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, he said without saying blah, blah. And I went, oh, that makes sense. So you never know what's happening behind the scenes.
That's right.
That might be the reason why, you know, your budget got cut.
But then you got to break that down, because if you're saying that you'd farmed out, you know, say 3 jobs, but now that budget is just for you. Well, hang about that. How are you going to suddenly feel? How are you going to complete that job if you're having to now essentially do all those roles yourself?
Exactly.
Man,
exactly. And that's where being able to being able to communicate in those different areas and being able to say, okay, look, you know, you originally had me doing project X that needed this component, this component, this component. And I flat out said, like, look, your timetable is this. Mm-hmm. You know, you have like a 3-week turnaround. That's not possible with this budget, with one singular human. That's not possible to do that. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. I would have to sleep for like 5 hours a night for the next 3 weeks in order to accomplish this. And I'm not saying this situation, this is a hypothetical. And that's not achievable, you know? Mm-hmm. And are there people out there that would do it? Yeah. I'm not.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's that whole, like, you have to be comfortable enough to say no. And here's why. If you say yes, the next time it comes around, that same type of expectation is going to be there, because they know that you're going to do it, and they're going to fight you when you need to charge more. Say, like, look, man, and you could say, well, but I threw you a bone. They're like, yeah, but I know you can. So could have said 10 grand, but now we're only going to make it. Well,
it's the same thing coming back, I suppose, with that whole $150 for a buyout, you know, on a track. Right. It's like, you know, the more of us who do keep saying yes to those things. I mean, I did do one last month because I needed the money, you know, but I felt very unwell. I felt when I signed that, man, and sent that back, you know, I was like, I should not be doing this, you know, and really, I shouldn't have done it.
Yep. You know, and there are times where you have to pay the bills, or on the positive side, if you're really into the project.
Yeah, there's that.
If I'm really into something and they don't have a budget, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, definitely, because and especially if it's a new growing team and you can really see a potential there, then 100%, I'm all in. I'm 100% all in. But yeah, that sounds crazy to me, to say you had a job that required 4 or 5 people, and now you've just got that job that's gonna now be 1 person, but the budget's not moving. It's actually decreasing. It's like, well, hang on, you've just depreciated me by you know,
yep.
5 times over, basically.
Exactly. But what I appreciated too is she said, look, she said, and I'm not talking Plover now, I'm talking the company.
Of course.
They said, look, we understand that you're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. They said, here's what we were able to set up. And it was a little backhanded, but it's business and I get it. They said, we have some content that we have to capture. So we're pretty sure that the audio is going to be squared away by the time it gets to you. So we're looking at these two elements as more of like quality control. So they're now looking at me in a managerial perspective instead of a content creator perspective. While I always was in that PM role, I was still going to be doing a lot of the work with a little bit of farming. Well, now I'm just going to create this, which, it's going to take time, but hopefully doable. And now all of these things that were going to require a decent amount of work and help is basically hopefully been kind of wiped away.
Well, not coming your way. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And now it's just, okay, yeah, let's trim this and we're good. Instead of having to go in and actually. Well,
I suppose I've kind of heard things like that before. I've heard of like almost a production that will start here. A lot of the TV world, this seems to happen where there'll be a TV production that say gets bought by a said production company in Hollywood, or they're going to be producing it, so to speak. And suddenly what happens is our guys can't work in Hollywood.
Hey, Mike, can I pause you for 1 second, sir?
Yeah, man.
Sorry, this is military.
Go.
Afternoon, Sergeant Major.
All right, so we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Welcome back, Joe. Welcome back. It's a man in demand. It is. It's a man in demand.
Never stop.
Responsibility, right?
Yeah.
100%.
When that name, I've got about 4 or 5 names. When they go on the phone or come up on the phone, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I got to stop and answer it.
That's fine. Responsibility, man. It's cool. So I was saying that, just picking up from where we were, I was saying that I've heard that before with say you've got a TV. Normally with TV, you'll have like a TV sort of series, so to speak, or a documentary being filmed, but then like a Hollywood kind of production company say we'll pick it up or buy the rights, and then suddenly what happens is, it seems to me, because of the guilds that operate in California, our guys can't necessarily work. Like it has to be LA boom operators, say, or LA cameramen, right? So it's almost like that part of the budgeting swaps over, but the post production tends to come back to the UK and stay with the original company. So I suppose in a sense, it's to what you were saying with you now. You've kind of almost you're almost QA, your quality assurance. That's
Yeah.
I guess you're now overseeing the production side of it, so to speak, has kind of is gone with whatever's happened with that. Yep. And now you're sort of sitting in terms of, but we still want, you're still the guy at home going over this stuff. So you've got the final say, so to speak.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. So they still recognize the fact that we had already engaged in contractual obligations. And it was one of those, it was one of those, I had total right to back out of it because they understand that everything changed. But it was one of those, I'm still making okay money. It's not what I wanted, but I'm looking at what I'm doing now, and it's in my opinion, it's the ratio is fine.
It's fine. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. And again, I'm willing to roll with them. And after all of that, she said, and don't worry, she said, anytime I need anything along these lines, I'm using you. Meaning, and by extension, anybody that I bring on, she's 100% on board with it and with this company. So you gotta, as much as you sometimes you want to shake people, and say like, what is your problem? Or you want to tell somebody off, you want to be rude, you want to be mean. You just don't, you can't,
right.
You gotta keep all that inside, let it eat you up. Cause the moment that you bring it out, it's done. Or if you ever have the opportunity behind closed doors, away from everybody else, to then politely express what's up. Then you can, but you still run the risk. They could say, all right, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry that this, that, and the other. I'm not going to hire you again. But if they were a jerk to you, why would you want to work for them again anyway? So it's like, you just got to do the dance. Everything 100%. Is so ebb and flow. Everything's so organic. It's just life. It's, you're going to have to take some crap jobs. You're just going to have to do those things. And other times, it's going to be awesome.
But it's just being adaptable again. But I think it comes into that same thing again of almost, in the same way we were talking about when you're composing or when you're mixing, about taking that break. If you do get that email or that phone call that winds you up, take a break, come back to it. And this is another thing with these cell phones. It's like, I sometimes I've been managing on the iPhones now. They got this whole focus zone thing.
Yeah, we have that. I've never used it. Well. I've been curious about it though. I just was bored the other night and I thought, what is this focus mode thing all about? Let's take a look at it. And I found it to be really useful because I'll set it, sleep mode comes on at a certain time where I literally can't be bothered. I do have do not disturb. That turns on at like 8:30 every night. And
it's really good. So say, for instance, I'm going through, let's say I was working on a project with you. I could set almost like a work profile for that job. So like say for instance, like so my day to day, between kind of like 9 and I did more my gym and all that stuff in the morning. Then between like 9 and 12, I was doing uni work, right? So I was doing my modules. So I set the lecturing mode on, which means that the program leaders and the other lecturers can get hold of me, but kind of no one else can.
But no one else. Yeah. Okay.
And obviously within that there'll be family, whatever else if they're phoning me, they need me for something, right? But I'll do that a lot. I'll set that at different times, and then like this, I've got like almost like a social one, which is like if I'm free and I'm out, I'm going out for a meal or I'm out and about in town. The work one kind of it flips the opposite way, where then they're my kind of friends and my family can reach me, but work people shut down, So it's kind of and I just explain that to people. If they say to me, I couldn't get hold of you, I just say I'm very sorry about that. I was having a life between 7 and 10 at night.
Yeah, I wasn't at your beck and call.
Exactly.
And it's funny, and I've been doing like social media, man. Like, so this summer, and this kind of, if any of you out there, like, have a family, regardless of their age, or if you just constantly feel like bogged down, like you've got to have you time. You know what I mean? Whether it's like if you're a checklist type, and I've very much become a checklist type of person where like, you have your notebook that you always carry around, and you're like, if you're the type where wake up, brush teeth, make a healthy breakfast, go for a walk, but then you type it like, do laundry, but it allows you
tick,
scratch it off. And then you can see I accomplished boom, 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 boom. Cause that's how I get, man. If I don't, I could sit here and do laundry all day long. Right. And clean the house. And I'll just, if I'm not actively processing the fact that I've done X, Y, and Z.
Man, I don't know whether you can see that. I've got
there you go. Yeah, mine's in the other room. Yeah, mine's in the other room, but it's there. Like, I'll go like, man, what have I done? Like, I've done nothing today. What a waste, blah, blah, blah. But like scheduling in times for yourself is super important. Well, this summer, that's kind of what that was. I only took a handful of jobs this whole summer. I was home with my children because I'm not paying somebody else to raise my kids.
No.
And I'm cheap. But you gotta be, we're artists and musicians. We're not exactly
exactly 100%
rolling in the money. But in all sincerity, like, I want that for my children. My wife and I have been very fortunate where we've never had to have a babysitter. One of us has always been able to be home for them, and I mean, we've had to sacrifice a lot in order to do that. I mean, my wife really needs a new vehicle. It's just not in the cards, because if we do, then that will take away what little bit of financial security we do have. You know what I mean? And just with the way prices are with vehicles right now anyway, you know what I mean? And I'm using that as an example, so, I'm here with my kids, and it's one of those, and they're not like little, but I'll say, all right, guys, I need you to go keep yourself occupied for an hour because I have to go take this phone call. you know, or I have to go send out a handful of emails and picking and choosing, you know, well, okay, well, my wife's off on Monday, so, you know, yeah, I can do that for you. I can go, you know, be a hand on set for you, or go, you know, do grip work or something for this and that. Like, I'm not a grip, but I am that Monday from 11 to 1.
You are exactly that. You're doing it, you
know?
From that section. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and exactly. It's just one of those, like, you do what you got to do, you know. And I also think anybody like over the age of 50 would say the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, you do what you got to do when you got to do it. You know, there are times when, okay, family, I need you to just leave me alone for the next 3 days because I've got to work on this project. But even in that, you schedule out your time. No,
yeah, dinner or whatever, just something like that.
Yeah. Right. And it was funny. And this wasn't related to why I do this, but I do remember, and I use Trevor Morris a lot just because I watched, there was only like a handful of videos that, of channels that I watched a lot when I was first getting started. He was one of them. And I remember one of the times he said, you know, I have the do not disturb, you know, and he said, I turn my phone off every day from this time to this. It was like 3 hours. And he said, because that's when I go in and have dinner with my family, you know, and he said, and it never fails. I'll turn it back on and it's just bing, 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 you know, and it's just all these, like, I can't get a hold of you. Where are you? And he said, you know, from this time to this time every day, I am not available to you. But it's important because he, like many of us, he's a workaholic too. He loves what he does. He's passionate about it. So, and he recognized, hey, I've got to have me time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I think he said, because he did his whole kind of Ask Me Anything series, which I thought
it may have been in one of those episodes.
And I think he'd moved his studio to his home.
Yeah.
Still good. And he was running through his day, you know, and it looked grueling, man. I'm like, you know, composing in 3 blocks. You know, 3 hours break, 3 hours break, 3 hours break, and then done. But yeah, I think he was saying that, and almost the advice he was giving was almost, you know, yeah, a client's going to try and get hold of you during that time. Just, I'm sorry, I was busy. I was working, or I was seeing my family, or I was doing something. You know, what did you want? Let's address it now. Yeah, I think as long as you're available at parts during the day, I think if you disappear for days on end, then you're going to get problems, right? But if you, as long as you do call, you know, if they try and call you at 12 and you were having lunch, as long as you get back to them at 2 or 3. Hey man, sorry, I was having lunch with my family. What's up? You know, it's fine. They're going to understand, you know. So
exactly. Well, think about you. I'm sure you have office hours, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
You have office hours with your students. And if they try to get a hold of you outside of those office hours,
they get an auto reply.
You are not obligated to respond.
They get an auto reply, man. They literally get
the Sergeant Major just called me. I mean, yeah, I answered it because he doesn't really call me all that much. So I really need to make sure. But you heard me. I said, are you available later this afternoon and I can call you back? And he said, absolutely. So it was one of those, heard him out. Okay, it's not an emergency. Can I talk to you later? You know, boom. You know, it's setting up those parameters, because I do think a lot of us are yes people. You know, we like making people feel good and appreciated, and we are willing to put our own self-worth aside, you know, in order to make those things happen. And that's not healthy, you know. It will cause anxiety. It will cause your health to deteriorate. It may put you in the hospital. You know, one of my issues early on, especially, was I would roll in here in the morning, like we talked about earlier, and this is where I would be until the afternoon. And I didn't think about eating anything, drinking anything, because I loved. I mean, I love what I do so much, and I was so engrossed in it. It's like, that I would put everything else aside. And that
you
was
just make those sacrifices.
Unhealthy.
You can't do it. You can't do it. I mean, and I think people do it in all, they do it in all forms of jobs, right? I mean, I was catching up with a few school friends earlier this week, and which was strange, you know, like going back to some of mine seen for like 10, 11 years. You know, one of them was saying about how they kind of like, you know, been just thrown themselves into work. You know, I mean, they were working in government and really busy and whatever else, but they'd neglected certain parts of their life, and they had money, but everything else had sort of gone to hell, so to speak, or at least needed some TLC, right? But I think the problem with our jobs is because they're creative, And there's different forms of creativity, right? Like if you're putting a time frame on me writing a piece of music, that's quite a difficult thing to do, because some days you might know exactly what you want for the scene. You lay down a piano line. Okay, cool. I'm going to throw that on the cello. Cool. First, second violins, violas, timpani. Boom, we're off. And other times you're like, this scene's really hard and I don't know what to do. Or you just got no ideas coming to you, or your computer's crashing. It's very difficult to kind of put a time frame on that, on creativity like that. So you've got to almost make it, you've got to, like, I'm more conscious now. Like, if I get invited out, say, for a few drinks and it's getting towards like 10 o'clock at night, I know if I stay much later, and I've got something creative to do the next day, that's going to impact my day. So it's more learning that, and I didn't have that necessarily when I was younger. It was like, oh, I'm out having fun or whatever. Whereas now I will try to be like, I'm really sorry about this, guys, but I need to go, kind of thing. Right. And it's that kind of, maybe that just comes with getting a bit older and a bit more.
It's 100%. It's getting older, because I wasn't that way when I was younger, and most people aren't, But like I remember, over the summer I had like a crazy 2 weeks where I was on a shoot for like 2 or 3 days straight. I was running sound, so these were long days. So it was the travel there, and it was like not far enough away to merit a hotel or anything, but it was like an hour and a half drive, So I'm waking up early, driving there. I'm there all day in the hot sun, sweating to death, not eating all that. Right. And I have dietary problems, that I have to always take into consideration, what I'm eating, when I'm eating, etc. Which, thank you, stress was the catalyst for that, because I never had any of these issues until about 5 or 6 years ago. You know what I mean? And it was because I was so stressed out that my body was like, nah, we're done with you. And this problem. And I've basically, it's under control now, because I've like woosah'd myself and everything.
I bet the sort of dress is just sort it out. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But they're still there. So like, if I know, like, so, the couple of days there, long days, I come home, and then that was like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I was home. And then Sunday was something small, but it was still work related. And then Monday was the start of something big for like a day or two. And I'm looking at this thing going, I'm dead. Like, I'm going to be so dead when this is over. And it was the truth. You know what I mean? Like, I was so tired and beat up. And, by that, like Monday, Tuesday, I'm going, I'm sitting at the keyboard. Like, man, I don't want to respond to this email right now. But yeah, I mean, you go through those periods, and then you take a week off to recover, but yeah, you got to take care of yourself, 100%, eat your fruits and vegetables, kids. But it's the truth,
Get yourself together 100%. Yeah. So where do you kind of, I suppose, going back a little bit to that article I read, yesterday, which concerned me a little bit. I don't know, that's with regards to the kids sort of their uptake of music. But I mean, where do you kind of see? Because I've got my own kind of ideas about where music production, say, is going to go. And I was talking to a guy the other week, and he was sort of very much into sort of AI, and he was saying that. Yeah,
that's what I was about to say.
He was saying that in the film world, say Ridley Scott comes to you, and there's take like the Dune film that just came out, where there's various kind of VFX guys will sit there and almost craft that world.
Haven't seen yet.
It's good, man. You need to see it. It's good.
I know. I haven't seen it yet.
What they're saying is that, generally speaking, a director will come to you, and they'll ask like a VFX team to kind of sculpture these worlds so they can get an idea of what it might look like.
Yeah.
And that can take like a month with like a whole bunch of people, right? And they're saying that AI could literally do that in a few hours. What's your kind of, I suppose, it's a question I'm asking everyone at the moment, is where they see, do you think Dolby Atmos? Do you think VR? Do you think AI? Can you see where it's all going?
Yes. So the human element will always be there. It will. I mean, you can't, with where we are at the level of technology that we are publicly aware of, and when I say publicly, I mean anybody that's outside of a private organization, because obviously they won't let anybody else know. But I mean, when I say public, I mean government, etc. You know, if you could theoretically gain access to that information, you got to look at AI art, which I was reading an art, and you may have saw it because it was a composer. I think it was it Graham? Who's it? Dan Graham or something?
Oh, yeah.
He posted a thing with all the AI art, and he was like, my 4-year-old did this, and it looked amazing. That's right. Because all you're doing is punching in keywords. Look at plugins like, you know, Ozone. You know, I mean, you've got, in a sense, AI that's handling mastering now. Mm-hmm. You know, I can speak. There are pieces of software being developed right now that are handling the audio world in various ways. I always go back to iRobot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're there. We're what, like two-thirds the way through iRobot, 3/4 of the way, when Will Smith is standing here and the robot is going. He's like, you know, Spoon, Detective Spooner, you were right. You know, we cannot create original pieces of art. However, and then you see him like the what he saw in his mind, in the robot's mind, he's sketching out on the paper with his pen, and you see there's like the hill with the robot standing on top of it and everything. AI is capable of reproducing that concept, or taking concepts and creating this. Do I think it is plausible that something genuinely original could be created? Of course, anything is plausible. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not naive enough to sit here and say that, oh, a computer can never do it. Well, we never thought a computer, technology could heat our food up for us with the touch of a button. You know, freeze-dried foods, etc. Anything is plausible. Do I think with what we currently have / the next like 5 years, pending there's not some crazy thing that hasn't been released yet that already exists? Yeah, I 100% do think that AI can and will be able to, and can, whichever way it works grammatically, able to create music, create sound effects, create escape. However, I think it's going to be more like AI art in the sense of keywords, structuring that programming around it where you can do thus. Now, pros and cons, obviously as the creative world, our opinion is the cons dramatically outweigh the pros. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and I to play devil's advocate, if I'm a director and I'm trying, and there's this movie that I've always wanted to make by myself, or not by myself, but for me, and I don't have money, but I have these tools to do thus, you're going to use them. I'm going to use them. Right. I mean, mm-hmm. and let's throw ourselves under the bus. Hey, Mike, you got a symphony that you can go hire?
Suppose you've already done it, right, with our sample libraries.
Right. Yeah. Now, we obviously are still having to go out and capture those, and there's mass amounts of people that, are part of that process. And obviously, yes, if the budget is there, we demo everything, and then hopefully the production will hire the symphony, mm-hmm. to make come alive. But man, just look at our samples from 5 years ago to now.
It's pretty crazy.
I love the fact that I can sit here and go B flat major, brr, and I'm surrounded in whatever I want to be surrounded by. You rewind 20 years and you're going to have people saying, oh, that's going to put us out of business. Well, yeah, it mm-hmm. did. And, it's progress. So pros and cons, it's like, being mobile banking. I won't use it. I refuse to use it. I'll go to the bank and I'm standing there with my little check and my cash or whatever. And they're annoyed. Well, the one bank I bank at, they're annoyed. The other one, I love them. And there's like, have you ever thought about our mobile banking?
Yes, I've thought about it. Great depth. I'm not using it.
And I'm not using it. Oh, why not? And I do it with tellers, like at the grocery and stuff, or tellers. That's a bank teller. I'll stand there if there's nobody, and it's all the self-checkout little kiosks, but there's a lane open, I'll stand there. I'm one of those people, and they come over. Do you need help? Yeah, I'd like for you to bag my groceries and check me out. Well, why? I said, no. I said, why do I want to use this machine that negates your job?
Yeah.
This literally takes away your job. And all those empty lanes that are now only open during peak time at the grocery store. Meanwhile, there are lines at the self-checkout. I'm going, it does nothing but perpetuate the problem of lining the back end.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree.
And I'm going, and that's not to be a conspiracy. That's true.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I see it. It's the same in the UK. It's no different in the UK, man. I think anywhere in the West now, I think that's very much a thing in supermarkets.
Yeah, well, and I spent, so I was on tour one time in China, and I saw dude, this was like 2008. And I saw some of this stuff, not to this degree, but I saw some of these things there, because, Japan and China, and, there's a lot of Asian countries that have the things a lot earlier than we do. And, I'm watching some of these societies, and I'm literally there experiencing it. And I'm going, man, how is this human? It was scary, and of course, we all watch sci-fi and fantasy and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of that stuff is not that far-fetched anymore. And again, from a workflow perspective, from a business perspective, it's great. I am not knocking it. I love the fact that I can sit, like I said, I can sit here and we can pull up sample libraries, or I can get this, that, or the other. But yeah, there are a lot of negatives in the sense that there was once somebody that I had to call and say, hey, I need to hire you to go out and, imagine if Ben Burtt, the contemporary father of sound design, imagine if he was 25 now, he wouldn't have a job.
No, he wouldn't.
He flat out wouldn't. He had to physically go out, and Foley still does that by all means. But man, unless you are working, on these major, multi-million dollar productions, they don't have a Foley budget.
But it's a good point as well, because this guy I was talking to, he was coming at this kind of AI thing as oh no, it will just do the blueprints, it will just do the templates. But then it's like you say in your example there, if we take the sample libraries, I mean, how many samples realistically end up in productions? It's quite a lot, man.
Yeah.
And it's kind of even I remember going to like Sherlock, the BBC did like a Sherlock Holmes production about quite a while ago now. It was about 10 years ago. 3 episodes. Yeah. This is the BBC. They have an orchestra.
Yeah.
And it's like all they did was record strings.
And they'll just backfill.
And all the brass, the timpani was all sample libraries. And I'm like, how you've got the BBC Symphony Orchestra? I don't understand you. You've got your own orchestra. Why couldn't you put the budget in to do that? But they didn't. And I can hear it now. I mean, you hear it a lot of the I mean, Bear McCreary, he does still use orchestras.
I love Bear McCreary.
Same. Awesome, and he does use a lot of orchestras, and he uses a lot of very awesome instrumentation. I love the guy, but some of that I've heard, okay, we've gone a little bit to sample land now as we come to the end of this production. Yeah. Some of that might literally just be timing or something went wrong. But so I suppose your take in a sense is almost... I'm not
against it,
or do we?
I'm one of those I'm one of those. Let's go have a coffee and talk
about it. Yeah.
Where I'm sitting here and the AI is sitting there, and I'm like, all right, let's get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll decide how much do I want us to be an acquaintance, or do I want this to be a friendship, or, are we going to go do business? I can't deny the helpful nature that technology can have for us, but there is danger, Will Robinson, in some of these, like cell phones, unbelievable tool. But I know so many people that are straight up addicted to them. They wake up, boom, they're on their phone. And then they're on the phone the entire day. That's literally what they do. And they have social anxiety. They have this, they have that. They have literally no nothing else, because they're using it as an entertainment device and not a tool. You know what I mean? So I think as long as I am all for technology, one of my original tracks for schooling was aerospace and aeronautics. Because like I said, I grew up around the military, around engineering. That's what my mom does for a living, with NavAir, with Department of Navy, and it's all engineering. And so I see the incredible benefits of technology. But as with anything, too much of one thing can be very bad.
I agree, and I agree, and I think it's a case of, like, for me, I remember I went to a games music seminar years ago, and they were talking about how this games engine is going to be able to, it's got a MIDI engine and it understands music, and it's going to compose music on the fly, and it's going to be different for every person that plays it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I kind of like the idea of that, right? But this is my problem as well, as these conversations having again, like a couple of weeks ago, was that, we're almost at the stage where, because what I see, and I gather it's the same in the States as well, right, is everyone's walking around plugged into their AirPods, their Apple AirPods or whatever, right? Yep. No one's listening to the world anymore. I mean, they even drown out the world, right? Because they noise cancel. Yeah. Then everyone's got their phones, and they're plugged into their phones, right? And it's like, how far are we? I'm actually going to watch it this evening, because Zuckerberg was on Rogan, and I'm interested to see what the hell he's saying, right? Yeah,
interesting.
With the whole Meta and the conversations coming out of that, my fear is that I suppose is that we're all going to end up a little kind of like individuality is already like king in us in the West, right? So it's this whole kind of like, my fear is everyone with like VR glasses, like Dolby Atmos sound. Everyone's walking around, not talking to each other.
What was that, Ready Player One or whatever?
Ready Player One, dude. Ready Player One. It's like, I feel like I've been primed for my future.
So it is, man. It's what's coming. And here's the part where everybody's just about to go. Remember that job I was telling you about earlier? Yeah. The one that I'm hardcore NDA on? Yeah, take a wild guess who it's for.
Right, I got you right.
It's for Meta. I can say that. It's for the metaverse, man. And I'm like, that's it. Well, here I am, somebody,
Well, so here you are, you're doing, this is what I'm saying. It's a kind of like, I'm not going to shy from it, because it's, if I don't, I'll die.
Of course, you got to embrace it. You have to.
If I don't, I'll die.
Until somebody takes an axe and cuts the power, it's a part of who we are.
Precisely, man. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah.
With my kids, I'm dead against them. They do not have cell phones. They barely have technology time, but they know how to use it, and we still have a Wii U.
Nice.
And we just got it like a year ago, because a friend of ours is getting rid of it. Like, we're not into all that stuff, but and everyone switch. And like, we still have the original Wii. That's we have a camper, so we keep that in there.
That's very much a family.
Right, exactly.
Right? You're bowling or your tennis or your.
Right, exactly. And that's what we do. We play like Mario Kart and Mario Party, like things that make you play together. So it's one of those, like, if like my daughter wants to use the tablet because she's an artist. I don't know why I'm looking at the mic. Yeah, I forgot for a second that we're
there's two mics here.
If my daughter's an artist, so like if she wants to draw stuff, she likes watching those, like the Art Kids Hub or Art Hub for Kids, something like that, where it's like the step by step. she's using it, but she's using it as a tool.
That's right.
You know, we don't give them the technology to just sit there and play games.
No.
You know, have they? Of course they have, you know, but it's not a thing. So it's as, for me, it's one of those, like, as long as you utilize it for its purpose, I don't have a problem with it. You know, at some point, I'm sure somebody probably, you know, took a guff at the electric power drill because they're like, no, I want to sit here and do this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
you know,
100%.
You got to embrace it. And, you know, if it didn't work, fix it. Don't do that thing anymore, or don't utilize it in that way. If we find out that, you know, AI like really puts people out of business, then there's a good chance that the industry at large might revolt against it. I also see this happening. This is also another possibility. You're going to get your portion of the population where that's all they want. They want the perfect sonic everything, the perfect visual. It's the whole Marvel mentality where, you know, I want everything to be perfect. And then you're going to have the other portion of society where, man, they're listening to the classics. They're watching it, or they're creating new content in the style of. I mean, look at vinyl. Vinyl's made a huge comeback just because it's cool and it's hip and it's retro.
Even cassettes coming back.
Right. But I do genuinely believe that it's not just a fad. I do think that people have really rediscovered, you know, this younger generation has discovered, man, this stuff is cool. They're like, I don't know, I can't really explain it. There's something real about it. And we're all going, well, yeah, it's real.
That's right. That's right.
It's not ones and zeros. This was something real that was literally etched into something, you know.
Well, I think it's the same. Even with there's going to be people who are always going to have that appreciation for, like, you know, high ISO film grade, you know, and you know, and I can't, you know, I love that stuff in the right context. It works really well. So maybe it's our jobs, you know, because it's almost like, I suppose my fear around it is when we get to the stage that me and you could go down to the flicks, right, watch a film. Or me and you could watch a film on Netflix, say I could watch a film on Netflix.
Yep.
We can actually change, like, you could choose to have the main character as a female. I could choose to have the main character as a male. You could choose rock music. I could choose classical music.
Right. And Netflix is already starting to experiment with that.
We're already getting there. But then suddenly I phone you up and say, hey, Joe, what did you think of the movie? And me and you have had almost like, I mean, people have a different perception and conversation around movies anyway. But when you get to the point where you're making personal choices about a movie, you know, and we're seeing this. I think Netflix, they do. I mean, I know it's on Apple. You can watch a movie together, and I'm like, well, why don't you just go around and sit on the couch, get a takeaway, or go to the? I don't get it. It's like, why are we pushing
like watch party thing?
Yeah, all this stuff,
and
man.
They're trying to make you feel together,
connected. Yeah,
you know, when you're really not. And then, like, I know on Netflix, I don't remember which one it is, but there's the Headspace series. So there's like Headspace, a guide to sleep, a guide to meditation, and stuff like that. Well, one of them is interactive. You know, where, like, you can pick the scenario, and by all means, like, I'm cool with that, as long as, you know, that type of thing doesn't take over, and then everything just becomes this immersive experience, because then ipso facto, you know, oh, we're living in the Matrix, you know, in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. But I've got a phrase for you. I coined this. I've looked it up. I've never found it. I mean, and there might be different iterations of it, but in this specific way, because my students used to fuss at me about this all the time, and I've held true to it, because it can be applied to anybody, to any context, in any degree. If everybody cared a little, then I wouldn't have to care a lot, you know, because, you know, so I was like, why do you get so, you know, bent out of shape over this? Because I'm the only one in whatever scenario it is that, you know, wants to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, if you would just put a little bit of effort, you know, because it's one of those, like, oh man, yeah, I don't care about that. But they do. They do. It's the whole head in the sand mentality. You know, if you're sitting next to a person where like, yeah, that kind of sucks, but, you know, what can I do? You can do a lot.
You can do a lot. Yeah.
You can do a lot, 100%. Even just by having a conversation. That's doing a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think having the discussions, the about AI, and the things that it could be helpful, the things that it could be detrimental on, and kind of drawing those boundaries. And who knows, maybe one day everything will just be up in the air, everybody will be enlightened, and it's like hey, you use it or you don't. Or maybe I'll use it sometimes, just like we have done with our sample libraries. We use it a lot, but we still love the opportunity to be able to take what we did and apply it into a symphony orchestra or a choir or whatever it is.
Well, I think that's my kind of, if you ask me what would you, I know for a chap, Daniel James, you've probably come across, he set out his kind of career ambition, if you like, to work on a Metal Gear Solid game. And he did that, and I suppose for me, it's kind of like, I've had little bits recorded, but the day I can actually get, I probably could, realistically, you could put a small ensemble together. It's not going to cost you that theatre worth, but that would be my kind of, when I can phone you and say, dude, have a listen to this. I just had it recorded. It doesn't even have to be the LSO or something crazy, that would be awesome, man. That would be absolutely awesome.
And like you said, you can do it anywhere. I mean, you find yourself a good hall and a handful of semi-pro musicians and a couple of good mics. Like, you can get a good recording together. Is it going to be able to be utilized in a movie? Well, it depends on the budget. No, I'm right there with you, man. I like pros and cons of each. Is it scary? Of course it's scary, because it's the unknown. Everything is scary in the unknown. Could it replace? Sure. Could we find that perfect symbiotic relationship? Yeah. Could it totally flounder because it just recycles stuff in that great sequence from Blues Brothers 2000 when Elwood walks away and the kid comes over and he's like, man, don't forget about the music. And he turns and he's like, thanks, kid. And he walks over and like, all right, now I need to tell all of y'all, and he goes into his little monologue there, talking about how like everything is just recycled syntho grooves and this and that, and his little banter. And it's one of those, all of those are possibilities. And it's just kind of one of those, we're along for the ride to see how the movers and the shakers of this planet are gonna keep
the meaning in. I think creatives, it will be, you, like you say, seeing them as tools, but bringing the meaning back, not forgetting the meaning, not just saying, right, well, you're a conscious being now as an AI. So you're the composers of the world. It's about us, I suppose, using them more than them using us, so to speak.
And Star Wars even bridged on that. Look at droids.
It's true.
Like, that's a protocol droid. That's their job. I don't do that. And I think things like that are extremely plausible. But again, in that universe, that was a symbiotic relationship. You know what I mean? Do I fully support it? Because I haven't seen the actual application of that scenario. I mean, iRobot talked about that with Will Smith's character, and here he is. Spoiler alert: he's half.
It's right. So I suppose we're in theory land, aren't we? We're in theory concept land, which is an interesting place to be. Well, dude, I'm very, very conscious of your time, mate. I know you are very, very, very busy.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
You're hungry. You're hungry. Thank you so much, man, for spending the time with me to go to finally sit down and have a chat. I'm going to link everything down, all the links to the studio, man, to your works, to GRAMMY-Nominated, to everything we've talked about. I'll go through when I edit it. Any final pointers, man, from you before we round off?
Just, for everybody that's still hanging with us, if you are, you're a champ.
Boom.
You are there. Or if you skipped it all just to hear the ending, glad you're here. No, seriously, take care of yourself. And I'm looking at y'all that are watching right now. You've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself mentally. You got to take care of yourself physically. Like we've been sitting here doing this for we hopped on at 9. So going on, 4, like almost 4 hours now. That's longer than I normally sit here. Get up, just even like go out and stand on your front porch and just take a couple of deep breaths, look around, take in the world. Hey, I don't need to turn my mic on. I'm going to go do a load of laundry. while I'm doing this. It gets you up and it detaches you for a few seconds. Just take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your friends, prioritize those things either equally or even right here above your work. The work will be there. And you know what? The work is going to be there tomorrow too, unless you have a deadline. But if you don't have a deadline, you don't have to sit there for 9.5 hours getting it done. Get done. And when you feel tired, get up. Whether you're composing, doing PM work, location, sound, if you're a videographer that's watching this, trying to learn more about what it is that we do, respect those guys, those folks that do that, whether it's crafty on set or making sure that they're not doing this, holding that boom up, any longer than they really have to. Little things like that. Just you got to take care of yourself, your body, your mind, be polite, be courteous, even when you don't want to. You just do it because you will be known for that. All it takes is one time of running your mouth on set, or to a director or a producer or a showrunner or anything, just one time, and your name is done. It's done. Now, you might still be okay in some circles, but they're still going to hear about it. And I'm not speaking from experience there, but I know a lot of people that has happened to, where it was one time and they were blacklisted because of what happened, what they did, what they said, and it's been tough for them. And I feel really bad, but unfortunately, that's how it is. Now, little things that's different, but those were big things. But yeah, just be polite, be a good person. You know what I mean? That's honestly the best to say. Work hard, be a good person, but still make sure that you do life and do it well.
Nice, man. I like it. That's a very, very strong ending, mate. Very strong ending. Like it. Cheers, dude.